Hola, hola gente, ¿qué tal? Soy Nicro y se vienen unos cuantos vídeos sobre la Blizzcon 2021. La Blizzcon fue el pasado febrero y de momento vais a empezar con lo que fue el previo de la Blizzcon y la Blizzcon en sí. La Blizzcon tuvo 2 días, así que tendréis un vídeo del día 1, un vídeo del día 2, un vídeo del previo. Y después de eso vendrán otros 4 vídeos. Un vídeo hablando sobre todo lo que se dijo en la BlizzCon de Diablo 4, todo lo que se dijo en la BlizzCon sobre Diablo 2 Remastered, todo lo que sucedió con Diablo Immortal y pues un pequeño vídeo también sobre Diablo 3. Gente, espero que os disfrutéis y vamos a empezar. Evidentemente para vosotros no hay un corte. Hola, hola gentecilla, empieza la emisión de la BlizzCon. Si lo estáis viendo resubido, pues nosotros estamos todavía expectantes. Tenemos el hype en el cuerpo, son las 11 de la noche del viernes 19 de febrero. Y vamos a ver qué nos trae Blizzard este año.
Tic-tac, tic-tac.
¿De qué año?
BlizzCon Online 2021, gratuita para todos los públicos.
Excitement just build up. I'm thinking about it all the time, even in my sleep.
Incluso a veces por una misma comunidad, te llegas a enamorar bastantísimo.
I play video games because I love stories.
Experiencing worlds that you can't experience as yourself. I guess video games allow me
Bonita
to
la
be
imagen de
well.
Shadowlands. ¡Oh, qué buena!
Log onto your PC and disappear into a different world.
I am a part of something bigger, a part of something beautiful.
As an autistic person, video games.
Eso del Hero de Storm, ¿no? Eso sí. Lo anterior era Overwatch. Y eso, ese es el diablo.
저는 제 와이프랑 게임을 가장 많이 해요.
El 4, el bueno.
My little sister. That connection between video games, allowing us to converse with each other, added a lot to our relationship.
Oh, esa
qué pena es cinemática.
Legión, ¿eh?
Qué pena.
¿Cómo les gusta crear el hype, Eso es Pandaria.
Cómo se matan los guagüeros, Cómo reaccionamos.
No he jugado nunca, pero esa cinemática me gusta mucho. Es que Blizzard otra cosa no, pero dejarse pasta en las cinemáticas. Buah, la cinemática del Starker eran espectaculares. Mira. Lo pega el petardazo y ¡bim!
Mira lo que se dejó en WoW, la película.
Sí.
A mí me encanta. No la hagáis.
Película de WoW, excesivos fallos de lore.
Demasiado condensado.
Tomar por culo.
Eso era del parche, ¿no? Digo, de Dragon.
Cuando maté al rey de anime, yo, literal, lloré.
Many years ago, I was doing a quest in Tiraka Forest, and a lovely little
Si hubiese tenido que llorar yo todas las veces que maté al Lich-King, me hubiese deshidratado.
Yo la primera vez, luego ya no.
Lo mataba como 10 o 15 veces todas las semanas.
There isn't a huge LGBTQIA+ community in my city. So when I was able to play a video game, I was able to start talking to people.
Está hablando gente,
really
bueno,
care that I was a
que
gay
le dan
male.
pajón para que diga que es cosas bonitas y con quién juega.
A mí es que Blizzard
I look to video games as a way to escape from that sort of reality. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm just glad video games were there for me.
I'll never stop playing video games.
There's no way.
I imagine myself one day being an 80-year-old grandpa gamer.
Playing video games has shaped me. I don't think I would be who I am today.
My passion, my interest, my excitement, they belong.
Video games opened for me the world.
And because of that, I'm forever thankful.
And I can't wait to see what the next generation holds.
Hello. Follow me. Okay.
Welcome
to BlizzCon Line, a celebration of 30 years of Blizzard communities and 30 years of Blizzard games. 30 years is so many years, and last year maybe felt like one of the longest of all. But throughout the years of Blizzard Entertainment, from 1991 to today, many of us can associate certain games with milestones in our lives. Maybe you were a little kid the first time you played The Lost Vikings. Or in high school when you first played a Diablo game. Or maybe you met your partner while you were playing World of Warcraft. That's the awesome thing about video games. They give us experiences that are relevant to the times in our lives and experiences that we carry forward with us. Games are here for us during good times, and they're here for us even when we feel alone or maybe uncertain. Games are coming home, familiar, comfortable, with a connection and a sense of belonging. And while many of us spent most of 2020 in our actual real-life homes, games became even more of a place to get away, to be free from outside concerns, even if just for a little while. So, this is pretty weird. Usually, when we start BlizzCon, the opening call is to my favorite Warcraft faction, the Alliance. Or my favorite faction, the Horde. I get confused. Usually, I'd be speaking to 40,000 of you in person.
Muy, ¿qué tal jodida la alianza?
Center, and millions of you around the world. And usually, that would be a perfect way to celebrate.
Un poco triste la Blizzcon así sin público.
Oye, Lilith en el...
The pandemic has been hard on everyone, and for many different reasons. But if there's one thing that the last year has taught us, it's that being apart physically doesn't stop us from moving forward. It doesn't stop us from connecting with our player friends around the world, diving in as warriors and heroes, and checking on each other as humans. It doesn't stop us from sharing our latest epic gaming story or celebrating those of others. Games continue to unite us. Now, to be honest, I wasn't sure how well Blizzard could work from home. There are thousands of people, all needing to work together in creating our universes, games, and experiences. Never has it felt more true that it takes a Blizzard to make a Blizzard game. And in 2020, it became clear that the magic of creating a Blizzard isn't just tied to a physical location. It's tied to the people who work here, and I continue to be so proud of each and every one of them. Thank you, Blizzard. We create these games and pour all of our energy and heart into them, but it is you, the Blizzard community, that brings them to life. And that's why BlizzCon Line is a celebration of you, the guild leaders, healers, DPS, tanks, innkeepers, Zerg, Terran, Protoss, Blackwatch, Shimada, the heroes of Sanctuary and of the Storm. These next few days are for you, our Blizzard community. For World of Warcraft, we'll be showing you what's next for both Shadowlands and Classic.
Ahí empieza. Empezamos con los
I'm sure you're
avances.
All burning in anticipation for that one. Hearthstone is getting back to its roots in a major way. We can't wait to show you how. We also have news for our Diablo community. Some of you were able to dip your toes into the depths of hell in the Diablo Immortal Technical Alpha. I really enjoyed seeing players embrace the multiplayer aspect of meeting in town. We can't wait for more of you to get your hands on it. So, it's only the beginning of the year, And already there is so much to look forward to, even though we can't yet be together in person. The Overwatch League will be kicking things off in spring, and we'll be watching closely to see if the San Francisco Shock can continue their championship run. World of Warcraft esports is back with the Arena World Championship and Mythic Dungeon International already in full swing in Shadowlands.
¿Competitivo de WoW?
StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3 esports are going strong with our friends at the ESL Pro Tour. And qualifiers are already underway for the first online stop of the 2021 Hearthstone Masters Tour, with the first event taking place next month. But before we get too far ahead, let's take a look one last time to when times were a little simpler. In the early 1990s, the internet was a baby. CD sales had finally eclipsed cassette tapes. Cassette tape, it's a rectangle piece of plastic, and there's a tape inside, and music would get recorded on, and sometimes you needed a pencil to wind it and make it tight. I know, it sounds crazy. We were all playing video games on Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, DOS, or Mac PCs. I personally was a master of config sys and autoexec bat. So many simple things in simple times. If only we could relive them.
¿Se viene?
The stage is set. The green flag drops. Let the carnage begin. Holy Toledo! What a collection! Now we're talking.
¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto?
Crank up the volume. Unbelievable.
¿Cómo es jugar al Rock and Roll Racing?
¿Me habré equivocado y estar en el stream de Sega?
Yo creo que no existía cuando estaban estos
juegos. No, yo no existía cuando estaba esto. Madre mía, esos píxeles.
Y para nosotros sabía todo bien, en verdad.
Eran los juegos de la época, chaval.
Aquí se ve la brecha generacional.
Me encanta. Blizzard Arcade Collection, featuring the Lost Vikings, Rock and Roll Racing, and Blackthorn. These are ports of the games just as you remember them, allowing you to relive the original experience of all three titles in 13 different languages, with a couple of quality of life upgrades. As an example, we include very modern, cutting-edge functionality that wasn't available in the early 90s, both saving and loading of games. And for those of you who purchased any Blizzard Digital Anniversary Bundle via Battle.net, you'll automatically receive the Blizzard Arcade Collection on PC today. Now, you ready to hear about some other video games? Let's hear what's next for World of Warcraft.
Venga, empezamos con WoW. Voy a desmutear a la gente que está en el chat conmigo, que aquí tendrán más que opinar que yo. Pero control, por favor, que no se descontrole, que la gente quiere oír lo que dice. Estáis desmuteados.
Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
Hombre.
No matter where you are, World of Warcraft unites us all. Whether you're exploring the Shadowlands, classic Azeroth, or another part of the Blizzard universe, I'm glad you could make it, because we've got a lot of good stuff to show you. But first, let's start with some Covenant pride. Kyrian, take flight. Nightfade, no. Let the hunt begin. Necrolords, to war!
Snake Lords, ahí está.
Sí, este sí, este sí.
Since the last Blizzcon. And the thing that's really kept everyone going on the WoW team has been connecting with all of you. The bonds we forge with our guilds and family and friends in WoW are powerful and real. As WoW enters its 16th year and Blizzard celebrates its 30th anniversary, we're so grateful to have the most dedicated and friendly communities.
Sí que pasa tiempo, sí. Desde ese matar cerdicos.
No tiene nada que ver, pero el otro día me di cuenta que Skyrim cumple este año 10 años ya, ¿eh?
Mira Classic las zonas de farmeo en Molino Tarren, ¿sabes? 12 años.
We helped our covenant recover from the anima drought, brought on by Sire Denatrius, master of the Vinthier and traitor to the
Maldito Denatrius.
We survived the halls of Torghast and crafted legendary gear in our efforts to expel Denatrius from his castle lair. Innocent souls are still wrongfully being sent to the maw. They face an eternity of torment, and heroes like Anduin remain chained in its depths. The jailer continues to grow in power. He's preparing to break free from the law and complete his plan to unmake the entire Warcraft universe. And Sylvanas, you may be wondering what she's been up to all this time.
Y gracias por las subs.
Today,
Ay, Dios mío.
we're excited to unveil our first content update for Shadowlands, Chains of Domination.
Vámonos. Oh,
madre mía.
Las cadenas de dominación. Se viene CGI.
Estoy perdido.
¿No te das cuenta? ¿No ves que no eres más que un arma para lograr sus fines?
¡Basta! Únete a la causa o te obligaremos.
Qué guapa la espada.
Ahora mismo tienes todo el poder.
La nueva la han reforzado.
Decídete, Sylvanas Brisa Veloz.
La nueva Shadow Moon.
Aún confío en ella, ¿eh?
Se viene. Se vienen cositas, chavales.
Te sucederé.
Creciendo. ¿Y si la traición de Denatrius es irreparable? El prelado ha desaparecido y Bastión no puede salvar las tierras sombrías solo.
Esto no debería ser así.
Quizá la
Vaya
reina
protos
del
más
invierno
raros, ¿no?
podría.
Arconte.
Un
Un alma viva solicita audiencia. ¿Un mortal? Un rey. Hasta donde sabemos, ha dedicado su vida a luchar por la justicia. Daría cualquier cosa por servir a su pueblo.
La hostia.
Y su corazón.
¿Sabes quién es, no, Ali, no?
Es puro. Muy bien.
Es que no sé cómo siendo esto, que es la puta.
Oh my fucking god.
Sí. Acércate.
Alina se está comiendo un spoiler muy de puta
Mis
madre.
ascendidos me han hablado de ti. El rey prisionero en las fauces.
Esa cárcel no podía contenerme.
¿Por qué has venido a Bastión?
Es Garen.
Tienes una llave. Te necesito.
Tú.
Uy, qué mal rollo me está dando.
Te ordeno que liberes esta alma.
No. Lo he esclavizado.
Como tú intentas
Es el carcelero.
esclavizar a tu propio hermano.
¡Hola!
¡Hola!
¡Qué guapo, chaval!
Me están dando ganas de ver con algo.
No te creo.
Es Garen, claramente.
Hola, chaval.
El recipiente ha cumplido con su deber perfectamente. Quedan 3 llaves.
Portal cristal.
Entonces
Oh,
verás.
madre.
el cartelero?
Sí.
Cadenas de
Dominación.
Qué buena pinta tiene.
A la chavala que se va a formar.
Ay, Dios mío de mi vida.
Todo el mundo a pillar la skin de Garen, que está guapísima.
Madre mía de mi vida.
Me tiemblan las manos, solo digo eso.
Later today, my teammates Ian and Jeremy will be telling you more about Chains of Domination in our Shadowlands update. Please check out the World of Warcraft channel to find out more. Next, I'm excited to share our upcoming
¿Os habéis quedado que ha sido el vídeo en castellano?
Porque estoy mirando en el canal en castellano.
No, no, yo también, pero me refiero. La conferencia es en inglés, pero el vídeo ha sido en castellano.
Sabéis que con el parche 9.0.5 nos regalan una montura, ¿no?
¿De qué?
Once donations reach our goal, everyone playing World of Warcraft will get a pet for their collection as a thank you, whether you were able to contribute personally or not. And to make this a fun challenge, if we reach a stretch goal, everyone gets a second pet too. And here they are. The first pet is Bananas, literally.
Un mono, pero si ese mono plátano ya lo tengo, loco.
Todas mascotas gratis para todo el mundo.
A plátanos ya los tengo, tío. Sí, sí, lo tengo.
Todavía no ha empezado Diablo, gente, todavía estamos con
¡Chato guapo! Hay que llegar a esa puta mierda. ¿Dónde está la cartera? No tengo tarjeta de crédito. Chato guapo, Chato flama, tío, puta.
We're grateful to have such a generous community, and we hope you'll help support this worthy cause. We'll be sharing the details about the charity pet program on the World of Warcraft website soon. So
tampoco mal rollo el tío ahí tan rígido.
About Shadowlands. Classic players, now it's your turn. It's my pleasure to hand off to my teammate, Holly Longdale. She's a longtime WoW player, a veteran MMO developer, and she's going to tell us what's in store for WoW Classic.
¿Se considera franquicia diferente WoW Classic de WoW Shadowlands?
Actualmente sí.
Sí. Buah, cinemática,
Increíble la cinemática de Classic, tío. 16 años después y me sigue poniendo los pelos de punta.
You know, online worlds like WoW have been a huge part of our lives for decades now. As a dedicated MMO fan and a developer myself, I remember hearing that Blizzard was going to be making their own MMO. And I thought, well, I guess I'll check out that beta. And sure, we all call the game WoW. But really, wow. I could not believe I got bit by the MMO bug again. I was so excited to be able to make a night elf hunter and be like that famous dark elf ranger from the books that I loved. I have to tell you, Azeroth was, and still is, a place I love to live. Since last year, I've had the great honor to work alongside the WoW Classic team to bring these nostalgic experiences back to life for longtime fans and a whole new generation of players. As a fan myself, I've had so much fun in WoW. From the simple things like drive-by buffing or making friends on that long haul from Teldrassil to Ironforge, all the way to the absolutely staggering, like when I jumped blindly through the Dark Portal and was running through Hellfire Peninsula, heard this terrifying noise, and then saw the Fell Reaver.
Atacador vile, hostia.
Pero si te fijas, de repente ha cambiado de estoy en Classic a he cruzado el portal oscuro. Ojo que se vienen cositas.
Pero cuando escuchabas el ruido ese se te ponía el culo duro, ¿eh?
Hombre, se te cerraba el ojete y mirabas para todos lados a dónde estaba.
Where our adventures are taking us next.
Ya está. Mira que lo he dicho. Mira que lo he dicho.
Me encanta.
Mira que lo he dicho. Mira que lo he dicho que de repente estaba en Classic y ha cruzado el portal oscuro. Mira que
Se
no
viene
hay
la Burning a la Classic.
Osáis adentraros en mi reino.
Todavía no han empezado con Diablo. Esta fue una buena expansión, ¿no?
Sí.
A mí lo que me
Sí,
gustó.
para mí la segunda mejor.
Era la primera expansión de WoW y entonces fue como... ¡fua!
Y aquí es donde aparecieron mis amados elfos de sangre.
Ahí está. Sí. Alina nació aquí.
Aquí fue cuando se sentaron la mayoría de bases de porque obviamente la Classic es la base de WoW, pero en la Blizzcon se sentaron muchos canons, pero por ejemplo la IP del 25.
Pero entonces ahora los jugadores podéis elegir si jugáis la Classic o esto, o sí o sí es os lanzo esto.
Se puede jugar Classic, porque vamos a tener se puede jugar Burst y se puede jugar y de Classic a Burning puedes elegir si quieres continuar con tu personaje y tu personaje que sea Burning a partir de nivel 60 subirlo a nivel 70 o si quieres empezar un personaje desde cero en Burning. No estáis preparados. Se supone que lo iban a llamar Burning Crusade Reborn, no Classic.
Brings back so many memories, right? Like
Creo que esta es alguien. Es famosa, ella es desarrolladora.
Y es desarrolladora de
chaotic magic alive in Netherstorm.
Creo que Black Temple fue la raid que más me gustó de todo. Hay algunas que están muy guapas, pero creo que Black Temple es la que se va.
Me amonestasteis de todos hasta Cata.
Sunwell la disfruté mucho también yo.
Sí, pero no era igual. O sea, Black Temple era...
Lo único que yo...
Since the team first set out on their own quest to bring the original WoW back to life,
todavía no ha llegado Diablo.
a ton about what players are expecting
Tocará
from
ahora,
this kind
supongo.
of experience. We've also learned when to keep things just as they were and where we all might be open to some changes. We're bringing all these lessons into Burning Crusade Classic with our primary goal to bring back the same feeling you had when you faced the Fell Reaver for the first time, or when you were digging through piles of Fellhound poop. Of course, we can't get this right without you, our incredible community. Soon, you'll be able to revisit Outland yourself when beta starts and tell us what you think. Later, all WoW Classic players are going to be presented with a meaningful choice for each one of your beloved characters. Do you want to move on into Burning Crusade Classic? Or do you want to stay in the original Classic era forever? Whatever you decide.
¿Ves? Lo que tú has preguntado antes lo está diciendo ahora.
O te quedas en Classic para siempre.
Sí, o pasas a Burning.
Don't worry. We'll be getting into the details in our panel later today. So stick with us.
Bueno, pues dentro de 2 años tendremos
You are prepared. And now we're going to hear what's coming up in Hearthstone.
Hearthstone. Vaya, pensé que tocaría Diablo. Lo dejarán para el cierre a lo mejor.
Lo dejarán para el final, claro.
¡Cabrones!
Han empezado con lo más fuerte y van a cerrar con lo segundo más fuerte.
Claro.
Es que si te ponen los dos más fuertes del tirón, luego te piras porque la puta.
Pensé que tocaba Diablo ahora. Me encanta la banda sonora de este juego.
Bueno, chavales, ahora es cuando podéis ir al baño y esas cosas. Llega lo no interesante.
No, pero han dicho de que Hearthstone un cambio brutal, que van a recibir.
Cartas de doble clase.
Vamos a darle una oportunidad a este pay to win, ¿no?
Pay to play.
Pay to play.
We launched a brand new game mode, Duels, that saw more than 10 million matches on its first day. We also introduced our long-awaited
las 3 partidas que necesitabas para tener la montura en el
significant overhaul to the rewards and progression within the game.
Yo fue nivel leyenda.
Now, it's time to say farewell to the year of the Phoenix.
Y mira que es fea la puta montura, creo que
Da
no la
igual,
he
pero
usado
era la montura, no importa.
Creo que no la he usado nunca.
To the year of the Griffin.
¿Cuál era? El Pegaso, ¿no? Yo sí que lo usaba.
Yo sí lo he usado.
Escúchame, Alina, y ese anillo 213 de heroico que lleva.
We want to keep delivering fun, new experiences and make sure that the tens of millions of you playing Hearthstone are always excited to log in. First up, we'll be giving the standard format its biggest shake-up ever, with the launch of the core set later this year. The core set replaces the old basic and classic sets with a collection of 235 cards made up of some of the best from throughout the years, as well as 29 awesome brand new cards. And the best thing about the core set is that it's entirely free. So, there's never been a better time to get into Hearthstone. Here are 3 of Hearthstone's legendary dragons, reimagined to feel more up to
Qué buena estrategia para recuperar gente. Campaña entera nueva y gratis.
Quieren recuperar gente, ha bajado mucho los jugadores de Hearthstone.
Full arsenal of dream cards. Right She's a nightmare for your opponents.
Tremendo mazo que me monté con ese.
Maligos.
Oh, Maligos, qué pochilito.
And is a powerful late game play, worthy of the aspect of Magic. And finally, everyone's favorite black dragon,
¿Azuregos?
Deathwing. He's still as destructive as ever, but time's
Están metiendo los dragones aspecto,
empty-handed. We'll also be launching a
¿Cómo deben de estar para que un juego que se dedica a vender cartas para poder aguantar y renovar y ganar esté regalando una colección entera? Han tenido que dar muchísimo los jugadores.
Porque la gente se cansó de que tú tuvieras que pagar 20 pavos o 30 pavos lo que valía una aventura para poder tener 4 cartas o 6 cartas que eran clave para poder jugar la mitad de los mazos.
¿Vosotros sabéis que antes de que saliera este juego existían las cartas de Hearthstone físicas?
No.
Sí.
Yo tengo, no sé, por lo menos...
Yo jugué el juego de cartas.
200 o 300 euros en cartas físicas.
Lo que tiene que cuando un free to play se convierte en pay to win.
Todos los caminos conducen al cruce.
El juego de cartas del juego, ¿no?
Sí.
Antes de ser Hearthstone era el juego de cartas del juego. Tengo la carta de Silvanas, por cierto.
Es donde te sacabas la carta del tigre.
Tu hacha debe estar afilada. Tu mente despierta. Y tu corazón debe ser poderoso. ¡Fuerza y honor! ¡Esto es lo que somos!
Los baldíos. Forjados en los baldíos. Suena bien.
Escúchame, qué asco de zona desde Cataclysm. Antes me molaba.
Las bandas sonoras son muy brutales.
A fierce loyalist, one-time war chief that embodies the honor, loyalty, and spirituality of the Horde. Shadowhunter Vol'jin. Shadowhunter Vol'jin is a neutral legendary that allows you to either bolster your own board or weaken that of your opponents. And to celebrate the announcement,
claro. Que Alina no lo sabe porque no ha jugado la campaña de la Sylphide Nocturna. Alina, te tienes que hacer un Sylphide Nocturna.
Espérate, que estoy probando una druida.
Tienes que hacerte un Sylphide Nocturna.
Claim your free copy of Shadowhunter Vol'jin. And as a bonus,
Heroes de Thor creo que no va a aparecer.
We're also giving away the brand new 30 years of Blizzard card back. Next, we have another hero of the Horde, who is making his first appearance in Hearthstone.
Este tampoco tiene orejas.
The legendary Blade Master, Samuro, featuring the new keyword, Frenzy.
Unos 6x4, no está nada mal, ojito,
And survives. In Samuro's case, this can be used to clear your opponent's
y encima de...
Heroes of the Horde, like Samuro, famous for their combat prowess. But others, like Thor, known for their powerful elemental magic.
¿Por qué nos estás explicando las cartas básicas que hemos jugado durante años?
New shaman spell, Chain Lightning.
Caen en relámpagos.
Se nota que está presentando esto para todo el mundo, porque los que hemos jugado muchas de estas cartas ya las conocíamos. Ah, pues porque las están remodelando.
¿Se está dando cuenta de que las están reworkeando y la carta sube de nivel y pasa de 3 a 4
nuevas cartas, lo han dicho antes. Vale, entonces sí. Es nueva mecánica.
Yo creo que me quedé en la época del mazo de agro, ¿sabes?
Sí, yo me quedé en la época del primer mazo de dragones.
¿Cómo se llamaba? Colento. Vaya crack el Colento. Que con cualquier mierda se ponía el top 1.
Yo me quedé en la campaña en la que tenía los exploradores, la primera de los exploradores.
Mercenaries features strategic RPG gameplay, where you build teams consisting of some of the most iconic heroes and villains from the Warcraft universe, including timeless characters like the infamous Sylvanas
las hermanas Brisabelov.
and Ragnaros, the elemental lord of fire.
Uf, Ragnaros está guapo.
You can also expect
¿Los tres hermanos Ragnaros o qué?
No. Antes tampoco eran las tres hermanas Brisabelov, era Sylvanas, pero ha molado, tío, las ves ahí a las tres y de repente, hostia, mira, las hermanas Brisabelov. Mola muchísimo evolucionar las cartas, Joder, me está entrando ganas de jugar. Me está entrando ganas de jugar.
¡Hola, qué guapo!
Eso es un árbol de talento.
Un árbol de progresión. Me está dando ganas de instalarme a mí también.
Sí, tío, me están entrando muchas ganas de jugar, pero muy fuertes,
Está vendiendo la moto como Dios.
El comercial.
Mira todo lo que estamos haciendo y te lo vamos a dar gratis. Entra a jugar de una vez. Tal cual. A mí me están dando ganas de jugar.
Mientras no pagues, suficiente.
Claro, vas a entrar, te vas a encontrar sin cartas, paga cartas.
Sí, este juego es gratis. El problema que ha tenido siempre este juego es que te quedabas desfasado en cuanto no pagabas.
Y cuando conseguías todas las cartas sin pagar, a las 2 semanas te cambiaban de expansión. Te sacaban todas las nuevas y tal.
No sé que seas demasiado bueno en arena.
Espero que con Diablo se extiendan un poco más, porque para mí se me ha quedado un poco corto lo del WoW. Espero que lo de Diablo sea más extenso y no de la bomba de chicha.
A ver, ten en cuenta que esto es la presentación, ¿no?
Poco me han presentado.
Ojo Diablo.
Se viene. Os mundeo a todos.
Vale.
Adelante, presentación de Diablo.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for joining us. I am so excited to kick off the Diablo segment of our show, and I am honored to be here on behalf of all of our Diablo teams to share the news and updates we have in store for you today. We've got a lot of Diablo to cover, and I hope you'll agree with me that it's a great time to be a member of this community. All right, let's kick things off with Diablo 4. We first shared our game with you during Blizzcon of 2019, and we've been truly humbled by your response. We've kept in touch through quarterly updates and sincerely appreciate the thoughts and valuable feedback you've provided as we unveil more and more of the game and share in its development. After all, Diablo belongs to you as much as it belongs to us. Most recently, we teased an update to our campfire screen, and savvy fans, of course, understood that we meant more than just the character lighting and fire visual effects. That's right. Today, we're happy to announce a brave new soul joining the barbarian, the sorcerer, and the druid on this dangerous journey back to Sanctuary. A class is one of the most exciting things you can announce in
Nuevo personaje.
This one is especially exciting to me, as it's a re-envisioning of one of the first classes to ever appear in the series. Let's have a look.
Nuevo personaje para Diablo 4, junto con el bárbaro, la hechicera y el druida.
Tus plegarias no son en vano. Ten por seguro que son oídas. Hay justicia en la luz, pero hay que ser paciente. Reza conmigo. Que Akarat me guíe y me proteja.
Que Akarat me guíe y me proteja.
Que guarde mi alma.
Que guarde mi alma.
Y le conceda perdón.
Y le conceda perdón.
¿Qué estás haciendo aquí? No, es el momento.
Quiero confesarme. Porque he pecado. Era una ladrona que robaba a los más afortunados. Me alejé de la luz y hallé mi vocación en las sombras.
Es la asesina.
Asesinato. Yo lo llamo trabajo bien hecho.
¡Para! ¡Basta!
Soy una ladrona. Una hereje. Una asesina, padre. ¿Me salvará Akarat?
Te burlas de la luz. Pero esos monstruos eran una plaga para mi rebaño. ¿Y tú? Tú has respondido a sus plegarias.
De acuerdo, entonces. Estás en deuda conmigo.
El nombre que buscas es... Eres una bendición de los cielos.
¿Cielos? Créeme, padre. No me han enviado los cielos.
El pícaro. Es una evolución de un personaje original, que es la asesina. Y ha traído las orejas del diablo. ¡Qué guapo! Ya sé que voy a jugar. Os decía que quería movilidad. Toma movilidad en toda la boca. ¡Qué guapo! Es una pica, es una mezcla de amazona y asesina. Ha molado la referencia a las orejas del Diablo 2. Mira. Era Andariel, le estaba pegando a Andariel.
The sound of that ear getting pierced by the hook is so brutal. I feel like it's going to haunt me for a long time. I've been a huge fan of the Rogue ever since the original Diablo. Even seeing them come back as NPCs and mercenaries in Diablo 2's Rogue Encampment served as a great bridge between the games. With the setting of Diablo 4 being a larger world than we've ever played in before, we're excited to show you not just what the successors to the original rogues in the series have been up to since the fall of their order, but also what some of the other rogues in the world of Sanctuary might look like. The mantra for Diablo 4 has been customization first, and the rogue takes this to a whole new level. From the beginning, the rogue has been an incredibly flexible class, able to adapt to any situation. Our goal is to let you create the kind of rogue that you want to play.
Qué guapo.
Whether it's an unrivaled archer modeled after the original Sisterhood, or a cloak and dagger rogue from the darkest alleys
Me gusta
of
cómo
Chaldea.
suena esto.
In Diablo 4, you will have the freedom to create the rogue that you imagine by customizing the looks, the background, and the playstyle of your character. Please stick around for our segment later today.
where I'll be joined by other members of the Diablo 4 team to share a closer look at the Rogue class, as well as some of the open-world gameplay that we're bringing to the game. Spoilers, those severed ears are not just for show. But Diablo 4
ya
is
sacó
not
Diablo
the
4.
only Diablo game we're talking about today. If you're looking for an authentic Diablo experience on mobile, we've got you.
Ahora lo desarrollaremos, tranquilos.
Diablo Immortal has everything you'd expect from a AAA action RPG. From the visceral combat and epic loot to an all-new story, bridging the gap between the events of Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. Later today, you can join the Immortal team, where they'll talk about some of the things they've learned from their recent alpha test and what's next for the game. But that's still not all. We have one last bit of very exciting Diablo news to
Dime que sí.
When you hear us talk about the classes, the items, or the stories of the early Diablo games, you may have picked up on the absolute reverent tone we reserve for that golden era of Diablo. Maybe you share that love of the classes, and just hearing us talk about them makes you want to take on Mephisto or Baal one more time. Or maybe even for the first time. After all, some of our favorite moments happened a long time ago, and not just in Sanctuary years. If so, we have a special surprise for you today. Let's check it out.
Se viene. Vamos
Se viene.
Remaster de Diablo 2. Pero ya está, ya está.
¿Qué dices, tío?
Ya sabes lo que busco, María. Los demonios de mi sueño.
Inaceptable.
Mira lo que han hecho conmigo.
Diablo, la puerta está lista.
Ahora sí.
Aunque esta puede ser nuestra hora más tenebrosa, también puede ser tu momento de mayor gloria.
¡Qué guapo! Shut up and take my money. Dime que lo lanzas ya, hoy, lo quiero ya.
Ni siquiera la muerte puede librarte de mí.
Resurrected, por fin. ¿Cómo que la alfa técnica? ¡No! Puta vida.
After more than 20 years, the Dark Wanderer has returned. And once again, he travels east. Always east. Diablo 2 is a landmark game for Blizzard. Diablo 2 Resurrected is a full HD remaster of both the original game and the expansion, Lord of Destruction. It takes the 2D sprite-based classic that we love and brings it into the present in 3D, utilizing up-to-date graphical rendering and lighting technologies. It also includes modernizing all 27 minutes of cinematics, recreating shot for shot with the explicit intention of preserving both the look and the pacing of the original movies. Blizzard has a long history of games that we're proud of. And when we think about Diablo 2, we think about it as a definitive pillar in our foundation. Now, it's funny to think that some of you weren't even born when D2 was released, which makes it all the more important that we deliver an authentic experience wherever you play. We want everyone to relive their memories or experience the game for the very first time on their platform of choice. And so we're excited to bring Diablo 2 Resurrected to PC and console, along with cross-progression. And for those of you who are in love with the original, and you just wish it worked more seamlessly on modern computers, you can bring back all of that nostalgia exactly as you remember, and enjoy the game in its original 2D form, much like we did with StarCraft Remastered. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. Later today, Diablo speedrunner Mr. Llama will host a roundtable with members of the development team on the dedicated Diablo channel. If you are a Diablo 2 fan, I encourage you to take a look.
Vamos a ver a un speedrunner.
From Diablo 2 Resurrected, to Burning Crusade Classic, to the Blizzard Arcade Collection. It's a whole lot of looking back, Blizzard. And in addition to what we'll be talking about during the show.
¿Qué ha pasado?
We can't wait to tell you even more about our plans over the course of this year and beyond. If you had asked us 30 years ago what gaming would look like today, none of us could have predicted the current Blizzard lineup of games.
Oye.
The advances
Estáis
in
la mitad empalmados
technology
que
are
yo.
one thing, but it's really what those advances have enabled that's even more incredible. If you think about the people who play games and the communities that have grown up around them.
Perdón, gente, voy cerrando a Sasa.
People can connect
Ni confirmo ni
instantly, no
desmiento.
matter where they are in the world. The way people are increasingly able to express their identity and celebrate who they are through their favorite games, communities, and platforms. The explosion of things like streaming, cosplay, and esports. It would have been hard to imagine any of that 30 years ago. And at Blizzard, that is what excites us about the next 30 years. There is so much that we're working on. And some of it you already know about. The rest, we look forward to talking to you about it when the time is right. Just like the real world.
No han dicho nada sobre Overwatch, ¿no?
Warcraft, Diablo, StarCraft, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, and Hearthstone are diverse, expansive, and full of potential. We are not only iterating on the experiences that you've come to expect from us, we're also exploring different ways to express our worlds and welcome more players from more places into them. And we aspire to continue to lead on priorities like accessibility and toxicity control, and to continue supporting causes.
Venga, hasta luego.
¿Qué pasa?
Son líderes en control de la toxicidad.
Same feelings of joy and achievement that we all felt when we first defeated the Lich King, or beat Diablo on hardcore mode. Because when we geek out on those experiences with others, we can't help but see the similarities between us and feel what's possible.
Tía, los subtítulos van fatal,
Of course, there are new Blizzard worlds that we haven't visited quite yet. And when we do finally unveil those games and experiences, our hope is that you will see in them what we do. That no matter who you are,
Se podrá elegir
where
sexo
you're
pingüínico.
from, they are spaces where you can create
Sexo
new
binario.
stories, forge
Serás un
new
1 o un 0.
friendships, and make memories worthy of lasting a lifetime. And through it all, our
Qué
mission
guapa está esa escultura.
of being dedicated to creating the most epic entertainment experiences ever, along with our core values, led by gameplay first. will
Qué lástima
continue
que
to
va a
guide our
verlo
way.
todo vacío.
So on
Creo que
behalf
eso ha sido
of
3 años.
everyone at Blizzard, thank you for being on this journey. For me personally, it is the honor of my professional life to serve you, and the honor of all of us at Blizzard to be the caretakers of the worlds that you play in. We are so excited for what's to come this year, next year, and the next 30 years. Now,
En Battle.net dice que ya está el de
what's
2.
coming next for the show? Well, it depends on where you watch. For those of you
40 euros.
looking for an update on Overwatch, check out the behind-the-scenes look into the development of Overwatch 2 over on their dedicated channel right after the conclusion of opening ceremonies. There, you'll hear about Overwatch 2, new content, new features,
¿Qué han cambiado el Battle.net?
hero missions, talent trees, and more of what we think
Ya venga,
will make
salido,
Overwatch
a
2
ver.
a unique gameplay experience.
No soy muy amigo de las precompras, pero este va a caer. Hostia, 40 babetes.
Bueno, el Bacar dice que se lo va a comprar, ¿eh? El Diablo 2.
Yo... Para fin de año o antes.
StarCraft Legends will be going head to head.
¿What? ¿Crash Bandicoot 4?
Once again.
¿Dónde ha dicho lo de fin de año?
Activision.
Blizzcon Line. Be good to one another.
¿Lo dice la página o qué?
Toma, 40
Sí,
pavos.
lo dice la página cuando vos pones para ver, te dice la fecha, se lanzará.
Hey, thanks for having
¿Sale
us.
en diciembre de 2021 o antes?
Thanks for having us at BlizzCon 2014. We would love to be there this year, but obviously can't be. So here we are, and this is for you.
Bueno, pues lo que es la... Voy a bajar un pelín. Lo que es la presentación de videojuegos ya ha terminado. Lo que es la presentación de los highlights que querían presentarnos. Acojonante desde mi punto de vista. Les voy a bajar un poquito el volumen por el tema del copy. Me bajo
Pero, ¿esto es Metallica? Sí. Digo, ese se parece a Jim Heffield.
Pues tenemos un Diablo 2 Resurrected, lo cual está bastante guay, pero ahora podemos decir que lo hay. Hasta ahora yo por lo menos no tenía pruebas de ningún tipo.
Los del salón, que no bajes a Metallica, por favor. Que ahora que está Metallica tocando, que no bajes a Metallica.
Pero es que si no bajo a Metallica, lo que no puedo hacer es poner este vídeo en YouTube. Me cruje en vivo.
Es por el copy.
Hola, puta eres. Me cruje en vivo. Diablo Resurrected. De Diablo Inmortal lo han pasado muy por encima. No vamos a tener Diablo Inmortal ahora.
Nicro.
Dime.
En la página que he pasado pone que Diablo 2 Resurrected sale en diciembre de 2021 y abajo pone algo de Diablo 3. O sea que he equivocado.
En la tienda de Battle.net.
Los requisitos. Dice que los requisitos son los mismos que Diablo 3.
En la página de Battle.net hay tres precios. Diablo 2 Resurrected 40 pavos. Mejora de la Prime Evil Collection 50. Y Prime Evil Collection 60. ¿Cuál es la buena?
Depende. ¿Qué lleva la Prime Evil Collection? De momento lo que estamos viendo es el juego remasterizado. ¡Qué guapo! No le han cambiado el inventario. Eso no está bien. A ver, sí que tenemos un alijo más grande.
Sí.
Pero el inventario tuyo sigue siendo muy pequeño por lo que vemos.
Baja.
¿A dónde?
Es lo que te dice, se supone que te dan más inventario.
Más espacio para más botín. Almacena todo este botín que tanto te ha costado conseguir en el nuevo alijo personal ampliado y luego usa la pestaña de alijo compartido para distribuirlo en tus personajes de forma rápida y sencilla. 10 de 10 el hecho de que nos dejen hacer esto. Conserva tus progresos sin importar dónde juegues. Con la progresión cruzada prevista para un futuro, podrás acceder a tu personaje y mantener tus progresos donde quiera que juegues Diablo 2 Resurrected. Comparte personajes y botín entre todas las plataformas compatibles y conserva tu nivel. Lo que hayas avanzado en las misiones, tus habilidades y tus talentos. Para hacer uso de la progresión cruzada hay que tener una cuenta Battle.net vinculada y haber comprado Diablo 2 Resurrected en cada una de las plataformas compatibles. Mal rollo. Vuelve a Santuario. Comienza tu aventura con el campamento de las arpías. Parte hacia el refugio del bosque, del refugio en el desierto de Golem. Explora las exuberantes junglas de Kuras. La presentación. Se hacen más fuertes, consigue objetos poderosos, domina más de 200 habilidades increíbles con 7 clases y fulmina a los esbirros de los infiernos abrazadores en cooperativo para 8 jugadores. El servicio de juego online gratuito de Blizzard Entertainment domina la clasificación y luego comienza de cero con los reinicios de la jerarquía en el cambio de temporada. 2 juegos en uno. Diablo 2 Resurrected incluye todo el contenido de los 4 actos de Diablo 2 y el acto de su expansión Diablo 2 Lost Destruction. O sea que la expansión incluye gran cantidad de novedades como 2 clases jugables más. Bueno, novedades en su momento. Pues bueno, de momento tenemos como actualización que tiene crossplay y que tiene un inventario más grande. Que lo que veo aquí, no sé si lo estoy viendo bien, parece que sí, es que tiene pestañas el alijo.
Sí.
O sea que vamos a tener de verdad un alijo viable y cruzado. ¿Y que lleva la Prime Edition?
Creo que lleva alas y mascota nueva para Diablo 3.
20 pavos más, por eso.
Por
si baja
alas y mascota para Diablo 3. Derrota a los enemigos mayores. De Arreat, amplía tu arsenal, doblega tu voluntad.
Ahí lo tiene.
A ver, lo que yo entiendo, ahora que lo he leído bien, lo que yo entiendo es que puedes mejorar Diablo 3 añadiéndole Diablo 2, ¿vale? Y te dan unas alas y una pet, creo. Y eso vale 49,99. 49,99.
Vale, Diablo Prime Evil Collection también incluye la mascota Mephisto y las aterradoras alas Abrazo del odio para Diablo 3. Enfréntate a los habitantes de los infiernos abrasadores de punta en blanco y conviértete en la envidia de todos donde quiera que vayas.
Diablo 3 no va a jugar de ella más.
Enfréntate a la prueba definitiva, mazmorras siempre nuevas, totalmente aleatorias y creadas a partir de los lugares más peligrosos del santuario. Adéntrate todo lo que quieras, lucha contra enemigos combinados. Me estás diciendo que... porque esto es Diablo 3. Y esto es Diablo 3. La Reata Westmar, regresa a la Nueva Tristán 20 años, o sea, esto es el evento de Nueva Tristán. Diablo Prime Evil Collection, la colección incluye Diablo 2 Resurrected, Diablo 3 y la expansión Reaper Souls con el acto 5, el modo aventura y el evento total. Amplía todo el canal, disfruta del contenido de las temporadas con una progresión infinita. O sea, esto es básicamente que si te lo compras te estás comprando Diablo 2, Diablo 3, Reaper Souls, o sea, Diablo 2, Lord of Destruction, Diablo 3, Reaper Souls y además te dan unas alas. O sea, no es que compres esto, estás comprando también Diablo 3 y demás.
Claro, por eso tiene sentido. Para gente que no haya jugado a Diablo 3, pues está bien.
Eso es, y si ya lo tienes, en vez de salirte por 50 o 60 pavos, creo que es por 60 pavos,
te sale por 50.
Puedes comprar la mejora por 50, eso es.
Vale, en teoría ya deberían empezar los paneles en el canal de Diablo. Me lo voy a dejar aquí al lado.
No empiezan todavía, hasta las 12:35 no empiezan. Ahora a las 12:05 empieza Warcraft.
¿Cómo sabes que hasta las 12:35 no empieza? Aquí pone 12:05.
Porque te lo pone a la derecha.
No, a las 12:35 termina el panel de novedades.
En el general te lo pone.
Es que el general y el canal de Diablo no tienen lo mismo.
Ah, vale.
En 4 minutillos.
Vamos, en teoría sí. Me lo voy a dejar en una segunda pantalla para que cuando... Ah, no, ya está. Acaba de empezar a emitir.
De animación de Carbot.
Sí. Buenísimo.
Me encanta.
¿What?
Morta Vespa Gaia Inu. Strike with great vengeance. You are not prepared. Frostmourne hungers for your soul.
¡Qué grande!
¡Qué pocholito!
Your time has come.
Joder. Qué pago fantasma es el reino, ¿no?
Ya ves.
Mira, es Caín.
Strange.
¡La mató a la mariposa!
Greetings to you. Seems you're ready for the real thing.
Watch your...
Hey, look at me!
Oh, looks like we got an audience.
I'm getting good at this. I'm in the groove.
Todo online.
La carroza.
Surprise. Piece of cake.
Me ha faltado un meme de Warlords of Draenor.
Le di creo que muchas gracias por pasarme esto. Groggy, te amo. Te amamos.
Yo os he pasado mi nuevo fondo de pantalla por Telegram, si queréis verlo, ¿eh? Guapísima la imagen.
Va, cierro este.
Está muy chula.
Y dejo abierto este otro, que es el de Diablo. Vale, mientras esperamos a que empiece el de Diablo, os enseño una cosita que me ha pasado Groggy. No os enseño nada.
Here at Blizzcon Line. I'm Rod Ferguson, the new executive producer of the Diablo franchise, and I feel very lucky to be here with you today.
Este es el que hizo Gears of War, ¿no?
Blizzard's brought all the different Diablo games, old and new, under one umbrella. And as head of the franchise, my goal is to make sure that no matter what you play on, no matter where you play, you can look forward to many years of unforgettable Diablo experiences. Speaking of which, we'd like to take the next couple of hours to have a little fun and bring you up to date on 3 Diablo games we have in development. Yes, 3. Diablo 4, Diablo Immortal, and announced today, Diablo 2 Resurrected. First up is our Diablo 4 deep dive.
Soy consciente de que no he nombrado Diablo 3, ¿no?
From a very dear old friend. Trust me when I say you'll want to stay a while and listen.
Stay a while and listen. Vale, está hablando de que tenemos 3 IPs ahora mismo en funcionamiento: Diablo 4, Diablo Inmortal y Diablo de Resurrected recién anunciado. Empiezan hablando de Diablo 4.
Blizzcon 2019. We've been sharing updates with you guys through our blog, whether it's items, skills, zones, even user interface updates, and you guys seem to have really enjoyed that. Today, to mark the special occasion of BlizzCon Line on Blizzard's 30th anniversary, rather than doing a blog, we're actually going to share lots of video, introduce a new class like we saw in opening ceremonies, and also cover some open world topics, including mounts, camps, and PvP.
Yeah, this is like the ultimate blog post, right? We get to actually hand deliver it. This is the dream. It's all finally out there, and we can talk about all of it.
Just in case some of you guys missed it during opening ceremony, let's take another look at the Rogue Announce video.
¿En YouTube está en castellano o tampoco?
El video es de YouTube directamente. Creo que es un directo de YouTube que está siendo reproducido en la página.
No. O sea, que no hay posibilidad de poner los subtítulos en castellano.
Creo que no. El problema a lo mejor es que son los subtítulos generados automáticamente por YouTube, que a veces son un poco muy malos.
Ya, pero que no hay posibilidad de hacerlos en... No, en castellano.
Se pueden poner, pero no se entiende.
Pues gente, lo siento, pero no hay subtítulos en castellano. Tranquilos, porque de todas formas haremos un... Lo volveremos a explicar todo, no os preocupéis, porque dentro de un día o dos lo tendréis todo reexplicado. Qué guapo, Groggy. Este es el tráiler que hemos visto antes de la asesina, de la pícara. Sí, lo tendréis todo subido a YouTube y explicado con detalle.
I was a thief who stole from those more fortunate. I strayed from your light and found my trade in the shadows. They call it murder. I say, job well done. I am a thief, a heretic, a murderer, father. Will Akarat save me?
Brutal, ¿eh? El personaje, ahora cuando veis el gameplay, brutal. Lo hemos visto antes, pero brutal. Este es sin ninguna duda el personaje que yo quería. Un personaje con movilidad, con versatilidad. Te lo puedes construir a espadas, o sea, a dagas, a arcos. Brutal.
Then we are settled. And you owe me.
Hemos triunfado los de Diablo, ¿verdad? Lo mejor de lejos de la Blizzcon. Ya era hora que no lleváramos una Blizzcon. No me jodas.
Tenía que ser online.
Thank the heavens for you.
Heavens? I assure
Por ti que le falta una oreja, parece alguien que yo pensé.
The heavens didn't send me.
Qué guapo. Cómo saltan las tripas.
Fue las tripas.
Lanza cuchillos, ballestas. Y también está bien hecho, ¿eh? Y ese era Andariel. Estaban curtiendo el lomo ahí Andariel. La parte de las cuchillas no es un DH.
Da mucho asco esa parte.
Sí, es un poco desagradable. A saber cómo leerá ese armario.
Wow, I love that ending. There's two things. There's the rain of arrows off the mount for the win, and then when that guy takes the ear and he stretches it onto that hook right at the end, it's like, oh.
Qué asco.
That ear box never gets old, you know. I always wonder where all those ears from Diablo 2 when you kill other players went.
Now you know, there's some creepy guy in a church collecting ears and putting them in a box. Just what we always thought.
No spoilers, but we're going to be hearing a little bit more about World PvP a little bit later in the segment, but ears are definitely making a comeback. But let's go back to the class, because there's just nothing more exciting to be able to introduce to a Diablo game than another class for players to check out.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. We don't get to do this very often, right?
I think it was you that said that, John. There's always room around the campfire.
There's always a little room.
We had kind of like very core archetypes to begin with. The brute strength of the barbarian, the arcane knowledge of the sorceress, kind of a return of a shape-shifting classic with the druid. No RPG lineup is complete without that dexterity class that's kind of like defeating enemies with finesse, with speed. And we kept coming back to just the idea of bringing it to the kind of the godfather of all dexterity-based archetypes, the rogue that we saw in Diablo 1.
I mean, you got to be excited to have the rogue back. I mean, I know that like when we were exploring different classes, like you had talked about some of your experience with Diablo 1, right?
Oh, for sure. So one of the things that's super cool is like the rogue was always able to adapt their playstyles. So fans of Diablo 1, Diablo 2 rogues will be able to create very archetypical rogues, starting with the weapon selection. On the melee weapon side, rogues can use swords and daggers.
Vale, puedo usar espadas y dagas el rogue.
As well as bows and crossbows on the ranged side.
Arcos y ballestas también.
You know, just those sort of dagger attacks mixed with bow attacks, it's like, it just looks great on screen.
Todo a la vez.
With all the classes having this real strong identity as far as the animations and what they do. You think about the druid and shapeshifting, or the barbarian with sort of, you know, his leap attacks. There's just
Según la web, Diablo Remaster va a estar antes de finalizar 2021.
I love that you can start cosmetically from such a iconic place where you're wearing the red armor. You kind of look like part of the sisterhood of the from the original games. You know, you can maybe even add some tattoos into the mix, some scars, make that rogue your own. Or if your fantasy of the rogue is a more traditional RPG outlaw, you're definitely able to
pero se le ve mazada en plan amazona, pero sin pasarse en plan asesina. Es un híbrido bastante equilibrado.
Yeah, and the character customization, you kind of mentioned it, being able to craft that, you know, the class of your dreams or your nightmares. It was a feature that I was honestly super nervous about when we started, because we've never had this in a Diablo game, but seeing where it is now is one of those things that like I'm super excited about with where we're at. There's just a lot of creativity and fun looks, and you can be that you know, tattooed criminal outlaw, or you can be a more noble looking kind of, you know, sort of like with good morals.
Well, one of the things that we kind of kept running with beyond just the cosmetics was customization. We had this this niche to fill in the class lineup that spoke to the finesse player, to the dexterity player, and just that everyone's idea of what that could be was a little bit different, whether it leaned more on range or melee. But we took that a little bit of a step further. We really wanted to have each class in our game just have that one thing that makes you go like, that's bullshit when you see a player use it, and then makes you want to re-roll that class because no other class gets it. For the rogue, it's the class specialization. The 3 specializations are combo points,
3 especializaciones,
Shadow Realm, and exploit weakness.
I like Shadow Realm because I take the problem and I make it smaller.
Combo, Shadow,
o explosiones. I just pull 3 guys into the Shadow Realm and duke it out, and then I come back in. I'm like, all right, smaller problem.
I love the idea of exploit weakness. The way it works is during some of the enemy attacks, players will see an icon flash over the enemy's head, during which time they will get to retaliate with much more damage than an ordinary attack. If you're quick on the draw, this is the specialization for you. I'm just like a little bit skill capped there, and you know, like every time I try to make it work, I'm just a little bit shy of the skill level that's required for that.
Es de esas personas que habla con los ojos cerrados, tío.
And it requires a really strong
Creo que
ability to assess what's happening all around you.
My personal favorite is the combo point specialization.
La de exploit
As you might expect, this ability lets you build multiple combo
timing.
points, which enhance your spender's
Este está muy guapo, el de combo está muy guapo.
Basically, you just like get into this rhythm of combat, of like 3 builders to a spender, lets you build up to these
También digo que esto de que cada esqueleto sea un evento,
it almost makes like a rhythm game out of combat, which
5 horas personalizando el PJ para luego poner una capucha total.
Work is you will work with one of the world groups of rogues around the world in Sanctuary that you will find and do class-specific quests that no other class can do. Whether it's the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye, the remnants of that order that you choose to work with, or the mercenaries of Kyrgyzstan, or the outlaw smugglers of the swamps of Hawazar. Depending maybe on what speaks to your class.
En principio los personajes tienen género y puedes elegirlo tú.
2 géneros. Or you find more powerful.
Los de la Loxy.
You'll be able to complete that quest line and then activate that specialization, which then you can mix and match with any of the playstyles. So you could be a combo points, ranged or melee player, but you could also be an exploit weakness, range or melee or hybrid player. It just gives the class such huge variety in builds and playstyles.
I love how that ties into the open
Mola,
world
lo puedes
aspect.
especializar en melee, rango, explode, combo, osado, y puedes hacer con esas 5 cosas lo que te dé la gana.
That touches on one of the things that I love that we've done, which is like connecting the weapons and equipment to regions. When you're exploring the world and you pick up a sword in Kyrgyzstan, it's a scimitar, right? If you're up in Skazglan, which is up in the north, it's more of like a broadsword. You know, it's this sort of like this, it's a subtle thing, but I think it really, you know, different armors that you get in different regions look like they're from the place. And so giving that sense of place in the world is something that I every time I
no solo cada zona va a tener su ambientación y su bioma, también sus armas y elementos característicos.
It just really enhances the overall sense of immersion and experience, and I just want to see what's around the corner.
The weapons are also like, going back all the way to Diablo 2, just such an integral part of the class, and the ability to augment your weapon through magic, through enhancements, is just something that really spoke to us when we try to tap into the core of the class. Going back to those mercenaries that you could hire, it was always kind of cool to see what kind of special arrow shot they would come with. And it's something we paid homage to with the imbue system. All the way from directly elemental imbues like the frost imbue, which feels a lot like the ice arrows that the D2 mercenaries used to shoot, all the way to we expanded.
Como me gusta que para hablar de Diablo 4 me pongan Diablo 2.
Like poison imbue and shadow imbue.
De verdad.
Just the ability to take any sort of attack and kind of mix and match with those imbues.
Once that kind of clicked for me that I could take any ability and imbue it with, you know, either of those elements. Rain of Arrows with Frost and Rain of Arrows with Acid is completely different, right? Like you're essentially freezing the battlefield, and then I just love Poison Imbue because of the gruesome deaths that all the monsters experience. And we've had a ton of fun making that art, so it's always fun to kind of see the, you know, just a Field of Goatmen melt into nothing. You know, you just kill everything on the screen in a gory mess, which I never really gets old.
It's a really flexible way to take a build that you're already comfortable with, that you already like. Say you know, you're really comfortable with Flurry and Shadow Step as kind of your melee skills, and you find yourself needing more crowd control. Without changing your playstyle, you can just add the Frost Imbue to your bar, and now you're able to use those same abilities.
Nos acaba de hablar del control de masas, la posibilidad de permacongelar y demás.
Yeah, and Frost Imbue plays pretty well with group play as well, right? You know, where I can freeze an enemy and somebody else can blow it up.
Or also the way that like chills work in the game.
Juego en parte, si yo congelo, tú les haces más daño.
So if you know, your best buddy is a sorceress player, your chill spells and your Frost Imbue chills will actually build up faster than if you were using a single player. So, you know, just ask to open with Blizzard before you Frost Imbue, and you'll basically be freezing enemies twice as fast, which is super awesome synergy. So the last thing that's
Sinergia, esa es la palabra
some time talking about the Rogue is like how mobile the class is, just how able the class is to kind of close the gap between themselves and the enemy. Even while they're mounted, you might find yourself, you know, a full screen away and just dismounting into a rain of arrows, closing the rest of that gap with maybe like a dash, and then getting back out of there, dropping some caltrops. They can basically control the fluid motion of combat in a way that no other class can.
Estoy viendo cosas de Wolfen, de Poe, de Diablo,
options that you have, whether it's the playstyle, whether it's the range at which you engage with enemies, whether it's the cosmetics, just the sheer mobility of the class lets you just adapt to the situations. Even when you would have totally been toast as another class, a room full of elites, you're able to use.
Hace tiempo aprendimos que el dash era totalmente necesario. Nos están diciendo que los personajes tienen movilidad. Este más que ninguno.
Abilities like dash. So you're able to kind of like use them to your advantage in a way that gets you out of a very dangerous situation by picking that one skeleton archer that maybe is not surrounded by everything else. You can shadow step there, get out of the way, and you know, live to fight another day, which just feels like such a Rogue thing to do.
When I play the Rogue, I really do feel like surgical precision. You know, I really feel like I can move through the whole screen without. It feels kind of effortless, and almost sometimes a little unfair. It's like when I go into Shadow Realm and I'm dashing.
Están hablando de eso, de la movilidad, de que puedo dashear a cualquier parte de la pantalla y moverme y soy totalmente.
Es un modo de juego muy fluido. Some of our most feared PvP players on the team play Rogue, and just the way they're able to like surprise you. You might be with a group of friends, and just that mobility lets them go to the middle of the group.
Segunda vez que hablan del
rain of arrows that's frost imbued, and before you know it, you're all frozen. And looking at a Rogue while you're frozen, let me tell you, there are fewer scarier things in our game right now than that.
So Luis, this was, I mean, this was like the ultimate blog post. This has been a lot of fun getting to share a new addition to the campfire. And of course, there's probably going to be more in the future, right? We always say there's a little bit more room around that campfire.
That's right. And that pretty much wraps it up for the Rogue. So why don't we go to Joe and Karina and learn a little bit more about those open world features that we promised.
Vale, eso es todo lo que quería contar sobre el Rogue.
Thank you to Luis and John for introducing the Rogue, which I'm really excited that we finally got a chance to talk about and announce to the community. And we're here today to talk to you about Diablo 4 and the open world.
Venga, mundo abierto. Vamos a ver en qué haya cambiado el mundo.
The best way to start this conversation, Karina, would be just for me to ask you, like, what are you most excited about what we're adding in Diablo 4 for the open world? What feature, what mechanic, what are you most excited to talk about first?
I am really excited about just exploring the world. I am a huge completist naturally, that's the way I play, and I love exploring and looking around at every single nook and cranny. The more this game has been growing, particularly since last Blizzcon, the more fun I am having just riding around the open world on my mount and exploring everything I possibly can.
Yeah, it's really fun, I think, now that we've kind of taken Sanctuary and just made it so much larger when you're playing through the game. You know, when you compare it to like Diablo 3 or Diablo 2, there's tons of like exploration and movement throughout the world in those games, obviously, but now that we've really been able to embrace the open world concept, we can really dive much deeper into like how does Sanctuary actually all fit together? Like being able to ride from Skazglen to the Fractured Peaks, like it's very, very interesting that way. One of the things about that I think is really neat is the collection aspect of mounts. So I mean, there's all these horse breeds and other mounts you can find throughout the world, from completing puzzles or just finding hidden locations or slaying certain particular kinds of monsters. Find various horses or things to customize your horse with, like horse armor. There are hoof plates.
Han dicho muchas cosas de Diablo 2, pero todavía tenemos otra exposición.
There's lots of different ways to make sure you can personalize your mount and really feel like it's your companion.
Yeah, and it's really cool that, like you mentioned with the horseshoes, you get to actually change the speed at which your horse can run, and it's something I like to be able to customize.
Caballos más rápidos y menos rápidos porque puedes customizar. Ahí tenemos el primer pay to win.
It's really, really fun. I like the amount of variety that you give us.
And I mean, there's more to mounts than just that as well. So like one thing we know we didn't want to do with mounts in Diablo 4 is we didn't want to have like jousting, this idea of like fighting from horseback. It's not really the Diablo experience, right?
Yeah, that's something I'm super excited for. Like we showed last BlizzCon, we had the sorceress, we showed her dismount skill Ice Dash, where she shoots forwards off her mount and destroys everything in her path. Well, with the rogue, we got to have a little bit more fun with it. And the animation department has done a fantastic job of having her leap up into the air and fire down like the rain of arrows that destroys everything.
El descabalgar tirando la lluvia de flechas, esto es guapísimo.
The idea of like leaping from your saddle and just raining arrows down on your enemies as you pass by, getting down the fray and then starting to like stab people and poison people, like that is.
La poti de vida tiene números de uso como era originalmente.
Jump in, engage with enemies from your horse, and then just fight it out.
O sea, el caballo va a ser para moverte, pero también te permite hacer esa entrada en batalla épica.
Your mount can't get damaged, but if a monster actually attacks you while you're mounted, you will actually be forced to dismount. So there is a flip side of actually judging for yourself when you do want to use that skill in order to prevent you from being forced off unintentionally.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of gameplay there to make sure that you're using it in a way that is most appropriate to help you get where you're trying to go, and also fight the monsters you want to fight. One of the things I'm most excited about for the open world right now is this feature we have called camps. So camps are basically these strongholds of evil out in the overworld. And you got to remember that, decades ago, during the events of Reaper of Souls, when Malthael rose to power, the Reapers killed like 9 out of 10 people throughout Sanctuary. Like a tremendous number of people passed away. Now there's a big power vacuum out here, decades later. And these monsters have started to move into these places. Bandits, monsters, goatmen, all kinds of different creatures, skeletons, the undead, have started to like resurface and come back into these areas and start to take them for themselves. You, as the hero of Sanctuary, get to kind of wander through these spaces and begin to reclaim them for the people of Sanctuary. That's part of what makes them really, really neat. Each of them has their own story, they're their own unique fixed place in the world.
Zonas en las que hay una serie de almas atrapadas y luchas contra ellas para recuperar esos sitios para los miembros, los habitantes del santuario.
You as the player, when you come across that evil, you can actually have a real impact on the open world that everyone else can see, because once you have defeated that evil, one of the really fun things is that you basically unlock that.
Debajo de la poti de la barra de vida también hay un pergamino con un número. Puede ser como en Poe, pues los pergaminos de portal.
Hostia, qué guapo. Cuando desbloqueas un campamento se te desbloquea la zona y en ella puede aparecer un comercio o puede aparecer cosas, de modo que digamos que el mundo se puede completar. Que tiene un impacto que tú hagas esto.
And would regularly raid their community. And the people had to come up with a solution. They weren't strong enough to defend themselves from these cannibals, so they made a dark bargain with a demon. And they were able to gather enough power to push these cannibals out and protect their community, but not without great cost, as we can see here. You're kind of helping resettle parts of Sanctuary in many ways when you take these camps back from the enemy. Vendors will come back, and now suddenly there might be like new quest givers, new stories that need to be told. Dungeon entrances can appear in some of these places afterwards. Like there's all kinds of things that occur after you take over the camp and liberate it from these forces of darkness. And again, it's just so cool to see you permanently change the world as you find these places and kind of wander through and solve these problems. One of the other neat things about camps, and in general, like the overworld, just broadly speaking, is we have so many more opportunities now to kind of play with movement.
It pushes the bar vertically as well as horizontally, and we now have been playing around with the idea of jumping across chasms to allow the player to get access to a location that they previously didn't
el diseño de mapas mejora mucho por el hecho de poder hacer subidas, bajadas, saltos, pero de momento lo que estoy viendo es bastante lineal.
We are also in a vertical top-down camera for the environment, and so it really breaks up the plane that you typically see as
ya no está lineal.
not only as a developer, as an animator, but also as a player. There's such a huge variety of things that you can possibly do to mix it up and make things a little bit different. There's like certain puzzle elements to it that it's not so straightforward and not always obvious. So it's not just a matter of running through the world and getting, you know, to your goal. It's you have to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Karina, I know that you're very excited about PvP.
Venga, PvP.
I'm a huge fan of PvP. I love the first time that we all actually had a chance to, as a whole team, play PvP, because the amount of feedback that generated, I think it took design like 3 days to go through it all. And what that showed me is that I find everyone they either love it or they hate it. And I personally love it. I really enjoy it. So the way that PvP works is that the hatred of Mephisto has been bubbling up from hell and has created these areas in the open world that you can freely walk into that kind of consumes you and makes you turn against your fellow players.
PvP, even in these areas, these fields of hatred, right? Even in these spaces, it's not like mandatory. So these are optional places
no es obligado,
choose to go.
El PvP no es una cosa obligatoria en el juego, es totalmente optativa.
That they can collect from like killing monsters, from completing events, opening chests, all kinds of ways to earn these things, not necessarily just killing players. And as you earn these shards of hatred, they're kind of in an unpurified state. They're in a basic state. You need to bring them to a purification event in order to turn them into a currency that you can then use in the nearby like small encampments around the fields of hatred. And what's really neat about that is that when you're trying to purify these things, that's when everybody nearby finds out and hears like, oh, okay, well, someone's actually trying to complete a purification ritual. We need to go and kill those players and take all of their shards before they finish. But once you purify them, they're yours. You can't lose them. But before they're purified, they're free game.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that, like, even if you don't want to engage with other PvP players, you can actually
hay puntos que podéis purificar matando a otros jugadores para conseguir esquirlas y con ello purificar las zonas. Una vez purificada es vuestra, pero hasta que lo habéis purificado podéis pelear por el control.
You actually are hostile yourself and actually can be attacked during that single moment. But I think that really creates a lot of opportunity for you to team up with friends for just that one little moment in order to gain the reward that you spent so much time collecting.
So you called out earlier that the shards of hatred are used for like some of the
las shards of hatred, las esquirlas del odio.
There are some special vendors that only kind of arrive in these areas. They'll have special costumes or new mounts and weapons and things along those lines. Nothing that's like strictly more powerful than stuff you can get in other parts of the game, but stuff that really like speaks to your desire as a PvP player. And I think one of the things that's really kind of neat about the system in general is that as a player, if you choose to go hostile, betray the players that are near you, try to get as many shards of hatred as you can, you're going to slowly begin to kind of like infuse yourself with that same curse of Mephisto. And you're going to become a vessel of hatred. Now, once you do that, everyone within a very large radius of you is going to be able to see you as a threat on the map. And they're going to get a bonus for killing you. So when that occurs, you have a set amount of time you need to survive. And if you're able to do that without running away or jumping in a town portal and trying to escape, if you're able to do that and finish that period and manage to escape or defeat your people who are coming to try to destroy you, you're going to get a really big bonus at the end. And that's been really, really exciting to watch in our playtests already as people are like kind of wrestling for this status and then trying to defend it once they actually achieve it.
Yeah, and there's also the ears that you get to collect as a trophy. It harkens back to D2, where I think you could sell the ears for 1 gold. I don't know if we're going to be doing that. I know we were playing around with them as a currency at one point, but I think right now it's just a cool trophy that you get to collect and show off.
Yeah, right now, very, very cool trophy. The thing was really neat about the Diablo 2 ears, like you could fill up your whole inventory with them, obviously, but being able to see like the people that you took the ears from, like seeing their character names on there, was always like the
Las orejas llevan el nombre del personaje que has matado.
Yeah, I got that person that time, right? So we want to make sure that we embrace that aspect of it. That's the important part for us. That's going to be a really, really great callback to Diablo 2 PvP.
Right, yeah. So I love where PvP is going, and I love that it is such it's only one part of how large and open the world is, and really harkens back to the adventure in me when I play the game. How do you feel?
I'm super excited as well. I mean, there's so much.
Sí, pero nos habéis hablado muy poquito del mundo. Quiero más mundo. ¿Cuáles son los límites?
In general, as a Diablo fan, there's a lot to be looking forward to in the franchise in the future. Thank you so much for watching today. We look forward to speaking to you more.
Me gusta el detalle del PvP y del mundo con ese crossplay, con ese saltar arriba, saltar abajo, cruzar y demás. Pero he echado en falta un poco de carnaza sobre cómo de grande es la parte Iván desarrollada y tal. Supongo que nos lo contarán después.
Dolby is a proud partner of Blizzcon Online. Watch Shock vs. the World in Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos only.
Lo que os decía antes, vamos a, como tenemos que esperar al próximo panel, lo que os decía antes es que me ha pasado Grody los enlaces de las imágenes ya de Diablo 4 y demás, que lo tenemos por aquí, que lo podemos ir viendo, de lo que sería, pues por ejemplo, las nuevas zonas y demás que podemos ir utilizando. Acojonante los escenarios y las nuevas imágenes y todo, guapísimo. El nuevo personaje me recuerda a alguien, no tengo muy claro a quién. Guapísimo el personaje. Y tenemos muchísimo material de, pues de esto, de toda los nuevos entornos y tal. Así que 10 de 10, Gorgi, muchas gracias. Ahora le echaré un vistazo. Y tenemos lo mismo, exactamente igual, para la parte de Diablo 2 Resurrected. Por ejemplo, aquí podemos ver cómo es el nuevo cubo rádrico, cómo son las nuevas skins y demás. Por aquí tenemos algunos nuevos escenarios. Por ejemplo, esto es la pelea con Andariel ya en HD. Tenemos por aquí algunos de los guerreros. Muy buena pinta, mira ese yelmo, mira esas espadas, mira esa pinta. La habilidad del nigromante tirando el veneno, qué guapa se ve. Esto es en la nueva Tristán. Fijaos qué aspecto tiene la nueva Tristán, el fuego. Se ve de una manera acojonante. Por aquí está Tirael, 10 de 10. 10 de 10. Muchas ganas de ver en qué se convierte esto.
There's very few jobs in the world where when it's time to clock out, you just want to get online, start playing.
Se parece bastante al tipo de Fast and Furious. Tenemos también los dos trailers que ya están publicados en castellano. Aquí está el tráiler de Diablo Resurrected, para quien lo quiera ver. Vale. Y por aquí tenemos también el tráiler de Diablo 4, el nuevo personaje, que está por aquí. Vale, con la jugabilidad y todo lo demás. 10 de 10 también tanto el trailer como el personaje. Los dos en Diablo España. Así que está hablando sobre Diablo 2, pero aquí ni subtítulos ni... ¿Qué estamos teniendo en el canal principal? Nada. World of Warcraft. Están hablando sobre la nueva expansión. Muy buena pinta, Hearthstone. Overwatch. Bueno, vamos a volver con Diablo. No están los subtítulos, pero porque no los está generando, Con YouTube blanco rompe los ojos, como debe ser. A ver, la fecha de Diablo 2 no es una fecha oficial. Lo han dicho por aquí, que simplemente a la hora de comprarlo te dice que Diablo 2 Resurrected sale en diciembre de 2021 o antes. Entonces, en teoría, esto también estaba con Warcraft Reforged. Básicamente, si haces la precompra, se supone que lo podéis tener antes de que acabe el año. Cuando esto salga, pues ya sabes cómo va. Vale. Yo el día 1 os estaré avisando. Sí, ya se puede comprar. De hecho, hay gente que me ha mandado privados ya, que ya tienen las salas y tal, porque se han comprado la versión cara, y ya tienen las salas en Diablo 3. Si pagáis la versión de 60 euros y volvéis a comprar el juego por segunda vez, en Diablo 3 os regalan, no, pagáis unas salas. Bueno, no sé qué hora será para ellos, pero ahora se supone que viene la bot de Decarcaín, luego Diablo Inmortal Alpha, que es lo que yo quiero ver.
Hi, this is Michael Goff, the voice of Deckard Cain, and I invite you to stay a while
and listen. Qué majo.
I had been working on another project. They just they said we're working on something else. Had no idea what it was, and they said, we have this character that we're thinking about, and we just
no han dicho absolutamente nada sobre Diablo 3, ¿no? Diablo 3 no apareció en la ecuación.
And do a quick audition. So, I mean, there was a little bit of a description, this older
Tiene toda la pinta de que va a salir antes Diablo Inmortal que Resurrected.
Maybe he kinda would sound like an older Sean Connery. Was a nice clue to work with, because it sort of gave you a little path.
Quinto personaje de Diablo 4 es el nigromante 100%.
You know, Deckard evolved. There wasn't like the depth or the layers to his character in the beginning, but his sound, it just sort of appeared. But it was, yeah,
suena muy inglés, ¿no?
More perfunctory.
Muy británico.
To begin with. So he would just kind of, you know, appear with his heraldic staff and he'd go, follow me to find the next soul stone. The stakes got higher, right? As time went on. He just became himself in D2. Beyond just being the iconic functionality character that he had been in the beginning.
Qué majo.
He's got his own issues. It was a pleasure and a joy to be able to just have more to grab onto and a greater range
no está nada mal, la voz.
Emotional reality. He became both more helpful and empathetic.
¿Nadie se acuerda del make brujo para Diablo 4? Pues
there were desperate
a mí me gustaría porque en Diablo Inmortal no lo han metido, es el único que han manejado.
Much time left, and no one's listening. And of course, you know, having
de las mejores cinemáticas de Diablo
come into his life kind of changed things. He maybe softened a little bit, but he was more determined than ever to make sure that the light was not going to be extinguished. I think the thing that really is Deckard's hallmark is that he cares deeply about the world of Diablo, the history, the lore, and what's happening around him. It's a blessing and a curse, because if not him, then who? Nobody. And as dark and as horrible as things are,
os ha puesto en el enlace para que os podáis apuntar a la alfa técnica de Diablo 2.
Pinprick of light in the darkness that he can help expand and open up. Some people have said that even, you know, going back to D1, just the fact that he was there as a companion really helped them. I was surprised initially how people feel about Deckard. Yes, and I'm really grateful, you know, whatever impact this character may have had on people, that it's as widespread as it is. I mean, I think the world needs Deckard Cain now and forever.
Qué guapo.
Well, Sanctuary was a world trapped between the two sides of the eternal conflict. It was filled with beauty and danger. A little too much danger, if you ask me.
Se ve precioso, ¿eh?
Tristram, of course, was lovely, though these days perhaps not the ideal landing place for a vacation.
Mira cómo de ortopédico se ve este suelo comparado con el otro. Se nota el cambio de FPS también.
Although I was almost killed there too.
El nigromante.
Oh heavens, I hope not. I am now in the charge of a young child named Leah. It is my responsibility to protect her from witnessing any of the horrific and soul-robbing sights that I have experienced over my life.
Cambio es brutal. Las clases Amazona, Asesina, el nigromante, mira que fue el cabrón. El bárbaro, mira, es el de Guardianes de la Galaxia. El pala.
I expect we shall see them return soon enough. Or perhaps they've never left.
Qué guapo se ve. La interfaz y todo renovada.
Have you gone insane? Why would I ever want to go there?
La nueva forma de interfaz.
Have I not suffered enough? Well, I did visit Pandemonium once, and I lived to tell about it. That's more than most mortals can claim. But that was enough for me.
está roleando que flipas, el señor.
I do so certainly hope so. They must be better than demons.
¿Verdad? Cambia la posición de las habilidades en la interfaz.
We'll never see an angel wipe out half of humanity again.
Puedes llevar 4 o 5 habilidades a la vez. Qué cambio más bestia, ¿no? Hostia, esto es un cambio tochísimo.
¿Cómo?
En el Diablo de Remastered, en la versión de consola, puedes llevar 6 habilidades a la vez. Y el R3 para explicar. Tenemos que buscar la misma imagen en versión... ¿En versión PC? Entiendo que será esta. La versión PC solo tiene 2, puta vida. Las consolas siempre por encima.
Bueno, será 1, 2, 3, 4 y ratón, como en Diablo 3, será, ¿no?
No.
So, I want to thank you for staying a while and listening to me rattle on. Enjoy Blizzcon Line.
Hasta luego, Deckard, te queremos. Llevamos un rato yéndote, eres en brasas.
No le hemos prestado atención, pero lo hemos subido.
¿Qué quieres que le preste atención? Está hablándome. Sí, es como el original, en eso no mejora. Mejora en otras muchas cosas, pero en eso no. ¿Vale? Mejora en el inventario y en otras muchas cosas, pero en eso no.
My thanks to the D4 dev team for that update on our new class, the Rogue, and even more details about our new open world features. You know, I just have to say I love the new Rogue. It's a little Diablo 1 Rogue mixed with the D2 Assassin, mixed with the D3 Demon Hunter, with some exciting new elements added just for D4. I also want to thank Michael Goff for his Deckard Cain AMA. It's hard to believe, but I first met Michael 15 years ago when I cast him as Carmine in Gears of War. And so it's great to work with him again, but this time as Deckard Cain, your heroic guide through Diablo Immortal. And speaking of Immortal, we had a limited public tech alpha last December and had a lot of fun playing over the holiday break. Apparently, our playtesters did too, killing over 70 million monsters in just 2 weeks. Diablo Immortal is sanctuary as you've never seen it before. Now, a persistent online multiplayer world, and we can't wait until you get it in your hands. So let's get into it. Next up, Diablo content creator Bloodshed sits down with the Immortal dev team to talk about his impressions of the tech alpha test and to answer all of his questions. And after that, we'll enter the dark and twisted world of the legendary artist Braum to learn more about his Diablo work and what.
GOG ve de una versión de Diablo 1 Remaster bastante decente, adaptada a lo que se le ha hecho editar. Venga, Diablo Immortal Alpha.
What's up, everybody? Bloodshed here. If you don't know me, I'm a Diablo content creator. I love the hell out of Diablo ever since I was a little kid, grinding legendaries all night, way past my bedtime. As an adult, I still do that, but I also run a full-time Twitch stream and a YouTube channel where we make build guides, educational videos. Because of all this, I've been able to build an amazing community, and I have the opportunity today to talk to some of the Diablo Immortal developers. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, Bloodshed? Should we refer to you as Blood or Mr. Shed?
Mira quién está ahí, nuestro colega.
Mr. Shed might be too formal. We'll go with Bloodshed, it's fine.
Okay, great. Well, Bloodshed, I'm Caleb, the lead producer on Diablo Immortal.
Hey, Bloodshed, my name's Wyatt Chang. I'm the lead designer on Diablo Immortal. Thanks for making this time so we could talk about the game.
Yeah, super excited to kind of delve into Immortal here.
Yeah, and you were actually part of the technical alpha, right? You had a chance to play.
Yeah, I played, I think, over 100 hours. I was grinding, yeah. Burning the thumbs and the screen, it was fun. It was a lot of grinding, but I had a good time with it.
Pases que llevan medio trabajando.
Kind of picked a class and went really deep, and some people played a breadth, kind of played them all. What was your experience like?
Yeah, I went through and I played all the classes, all the way to max level, even grinded out a little bit of Paragon in each of them. But I think my favorite was Wizard. I spent the most time on Wizard. What was your guys' favorite class?
So my favorite class is the Monk. I love the mobility. I like just getting in and out and like destroying whole packs of mobs together. That feels really good. But I think like in terms of fantasy fulfillment, my favorite would have to be the Barbarian. I just love that it's like the meat potatoes, pop demons with my axes feeling, and so sort of like nothing takes that place in my heart. So my answer is cheating, it's 2.
Every time we do a playtest of some kind, I like to play a different class. So this time around, it was time for some Barbarian love. And I played Barbarian up to max and played some Paragon after that. Had a good time with it.
Están hablando de lo que han estado jugando en las alfas, de cuál es su personaje favorito. Bloodseed ha dicho que le molaba bastante la maga, pero a estos dos les mola más el bárbaro.
Sweet legendary I found that it was every time you use Hammer of the Ancients, it would
este es el gameplay de la última alfa que publicaron.
And then I got another legendary item that gave Hammer of the Ancients 2 charges, so I could actually like double up on those, and that was super fun.
Yeah, I had a Twister legendary that turned it into a giant tornado, and that was really cool. I was just running through the Elder Rifts, gathering up all the mobs, and then just using this big tornado. It's like as big as the whole street. It's a really awesome one. A lot of the abilities I notice have like a dual purpose. Like with Monk, you can kick, and then you can kick off the wall, and then with Wizard, you can place like an ice crystal, and then reflect the ray of frost off the crystal, and then just do this big AoE to all the enemies in the area. What was it like designing all that interaction that we don't have in other games?
When it comes to designing the skills for Diablo Immortal, we definitely want to make sure that we're bringing something new, you know? In a lot of ways, it's good when the classes feel familiar, and sometimes it fits like an old glove. People love to have their barbarian.
¿Veis? Después de presentaros una actualización de Diablo 4 y un Diablo Remaster, el Diablo Inmortal entra bien.
It's also really important that we have new experiences, and I think things like the ice crystal
entra bien para que no lo saquen ya. Qué bonito, chaval.
Are really important.
Yo también lo quiero ya.
You want some things that are new, some things that are improved over previous, and some things that
este año ya vas a tener Diablo 2, así que no te pases.
The right mix of all three when it comes
Lo peor es que está entrando bien, lo estoy viendo con otros ojos. Primero llevan un año de desarrollo y después nos han dado un poco de lo que queríamos y entonces ya nos pueden vender lo nuevo. Así es como se presenta una IP.
One thing I definitely want to dive into is the speed, like the progression speed. It really gives me like D3 vanilla vibes where, you know, legendaries aren't dropping left and right. And like everything you get, you're so grateful because you don't get that many items or like crap.
Habría molado que se cosplayara las orejas para la
coña. And then it feels really good when you get it, you know. Was this all kind of planned, this pacing? Is this what you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, I think that, you know, you always want to have a good pacing of reward, but you really want those random moments to be exciting as well. So for us, finding a new legendary item is that surprise, right? It's like, oh, sweet, I got a legendary. And if it's happening too often, then it's not as exciting anymore. But we also want to make sure that you're feeling like every play session was worth it. And so, well, that's where systems like Paragon and Gear Rank come in. Where if I play for 15 or 30 minutes and I don't see a legendary item, I've still managed to advance my character in other ways. So you sort of have that, like, predictable reward that you can count on, but then you also have those moments of excitement that come from an awesome drop.
When I hit max level on my wizard, I was bummed because I'm like, no frozen orb, like that's so iconic, right? And then I got a legendary that turned it into frozen orb, and I was like, this is cool. Like it kind of makes you think like anything's possible because you can just kind of modify the skills to become other skills.
Yeah. And you know, there's something super exciting about finding a legendary that you didn't even know existed in the game. You know, it's almost like the magic that existed during technical alpha.
No se puede meter, está prohibido.
Sometimes we play and all the information is available on the internet and you can look it up, and sometimes you even know what item you want beforehand. I think one of the things that kind of made the technical alpha special was people being genuinely surprised, like, what? I didn't know that this was in the game. You know, I think that's awesome. And I also think, you know, there's a lot of people who play games and they don't look stuff up on the internet beforehand, and they'll get that experience and that feeling. And we're hoping that, you know, with a little bit of a slowed down pace of legendaries and kind of having the skills and the legendary items be easy to understand, people can really have that discovery process as they
para que entiendas más el proceso de ir poco a poco consiguiendo equipo. Algo más parecido a Diablo 2 en cuanto al drop.
It's a full Diablo game. It's like you're getting a brand new Diablo game and everything's new and we're discovering stuff left and right, and you get that like new player feeling all over again. And I'm sure we don't even have all the game yet.
Yeah. It's like a kid in the candy store, right? It's just everything wide-eyed and awesome.
One of my favorite things about Immortal is the variety. There's so many different things to do. And as you're leveling, you get to a point where you can't really continue until you do some other quest grinding. I like it because I can go do bounties or, you know, run some Elder Rifts.
Tiene muy buena pinta.
What's like the break?
Me está tocando un poco la moral, que la única alfa abierta que hayan sacado sea en
it was absolutely
Australia.
Intentional.
Pero bueno, ahora lo corrigieron, supongo.
A couple reasons for that. you know, in Diablo 3, greater rifts were great. They're really fun, but some of the feedback that we got was that people wanted a bigger variety of things to do. You know, there's sometimes just, you know, a lot of a good thing can still, you know, leave you wanting to do other activities. And in Diablo Immortal, we said, okay, well, let's make use of our outdoor world. Let's make use of these instanced dungeons that we've created. Let's give players a variety of activities to do. The other reason to have this variety of activities is one of the goals for Diablo Immortal is we really want to double down on progression. We want there to be lots of ways for people to meaningfully progress their character all the time. And so we have, you know, we have the gem system, and we have legendary gems, and we have gear rank up, and we have legendary collection, we have Paragon. And by having all these different ways for you to improve your character, it lets players sort of really feel like, you know, what do I want to do?
Varias herramientas para hacer que el personaje sienta la progresión por equipo, por gemas legendarias, por Paragon, por nivel.
Sometimes I feel chained to like a quest hub or like a zone where everything is in this one little spot. But being able to go around the world and hunt for different things and have a little bit of variety, and there's a lot of variety actually in the game, it makes it so much more enjoyable.
Cool, awesome. I'm glad it's working out. We feel like it's working out pretty well too, and we're looking forward to being able to build on that.
The PvP event is something special. Like, it's like the World of Warcraft Gurabashi event.
PvP en este juego?
Yeah, what was it like designing the PvP in the game?
Kind of zooming out a little bit, every zone has its own event that's associated with it. So for example, in the Battlefield, like you mentioned, there's a little arena where a chest spawns and players can fight over it every 3 hours. But over in Ashland Cemetery, there's a carriage, a ghostly carriage that comes
diferentes eventos de PvP en todas las zonas del juego. Cada una con su objetivo, rollo capturar este punto, defenderlo.
There's kind of like a different thing going on in the dark wood. There's a corruption going on, and that you can has a ceremony to fight a corrupted image of yourself.
No, yo contigo.
And so in every zone, there's a different mechanic. And when we got to, you know, the Battlefield, there was this idea to allow just a free-for-all PvP event, and it definitely turned out to be a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah, I had some experiences there. The first time I showed up, I was like me and like people, and I was all bright-eyed and I'm like, let's do this. It's going to be a fun little bloodbath. I found out really quickly that you can group for the event, and it was 4v1, and it was an experience. Speaking of like these zone events, the Ashwold event where you have to like escort this horse and carriage, I believe, through the zone was my favorite one by far. Seeing everybody on the server kind of coming together, fighting over it, and then getting the loot was pretty awesome. Do you guys have any like favorites?
Oh yeah, my favorite is in the library of Zoltan Cool. Sort of peppered around the zone, you'll find these hidden tomes, and if you collect enough of them, you can combine them together, and it essentially unlocks a secret level. And so it could be a level where you go in, fight some mobs, get some cool loot, and come back out. Or it can actually even summon a world boss, like a Hydra, that everyone in the zone has to invocar la Hydra como un boss de mundo. So I like the randomness there, because it feels like doing it over and over, you could get a different result, and it kind of keeps the excitement up. So one of the things also new is our Paragon system, and we were able to design something from scratch for this game with all the learnings we had from Diablo 3. So my question, like, is actually for Wyatt. Like, what was that like designing a new Paragon system?
Nuevo sistema de Paragon. Vamos a ver
qué tal. It was cool. It was cool. You know, we had Paragon in Diablo 3, but once you reach Paragon 800, it became a more sort of just a linear path. And being able to say, okay, we know that Diablo Immortal is a game that's going to, you know, have a long lifetime. We're going to provide content updates to it. We're going to be adding and expanding all of the features. How can we design a Paragon system that is exciting now, but will also be exciting years into the future? And that's where the idea of like, well, let's have multiple trees. And when we want to expand on the Paragon system, we'll add additional trees. Each tree provides players with some choice of where they want their Paragon points to go. And the system is completely extensible anytime we want to raise the Paragon cap. But that's me talking as a designer. Blood, you experienced it from a player's point of view, and also as someone who's done a lot of Paragon in Diablo 3. What was your reaction to the Paragon system?
I was blown away by the choice. You can specialize in like 4 or 5 different trees. And then with each tree, there's like these, like, I don't know what they're called, the circle and square nodes within the tree. So there's like traits and other abilities that you can earn.
The circles are the ones that give you bonuses all the time, no matter what tree you have picked as being active. And then the squares are the active specializations that give you a special bonus when that tree is selected.
I love to kind of min-max whatever I'm doing in the game. So if I'm doing PvP, I can swap to that tree and get those bonuses. And then if I'm doing some farming, I can switch to like the treasure hunter tree was my favorite. And then I can get, you know, more bonuses doing that activity. So I guess, you know, for me, being able to kind of control how my character is performing, I mean, I'm all about it. There is a dungeon now where you can kind of go back in
Ahora os
time
hablaré,
and
me acaba de pasar
fight
hoy un montón de cosas de
alongside
Diablo
Pool,
2 y tal, y os
and
las
you get to hang
enseñaré.
out with Tel Rasha. It's kind of like a WoW time walking event. Are you guys going to explore this mechanic further? Like maybe we can, I don't know, do a dungeon after the Sin War or something like that?
You know, that is a great call out, and you're spot on with even referencing WoW time walking dungeons, because that's actually how we've talked about it internally as well, is, hey, the Library of Zoltan Kulle is this opportunity for us to like dive into the past. We get to see Tel Rasha and Dale, you know, have this conflict and for the player to relive it. And we really love the way that World of Warcraft used the Caverns of Time and time walking to further expand the reach of the types of stories that you could tell. So no announcements today, but definitely something the team is excited about using.
¿Por qué no announces today? Pero ¿cuándo me vas a hacer los anuncios, Primo?
Normal,
Primo!
like AAA game. It's awesome.
Well, we have a policy that, you know, that relates to the cinematics, but also things like audio design. That,
en el canal principal están hablando de lo de Diablo 4 que ya hemos visto aquí.
But because this is a Blizzard game, we felt like for those players that do, we have to really show up and show people that AAA quality that they've come to expect from any of our games. And so that provides us a lot of just excitement, enthusiasm on the team, because we know we're not holding back. You know, not just because this is a mobile game, we do less. Like, we still, you know, just take it to 11, you know, every chance we get.
Speaking about the story and the characters, we get to hang out with Deckard Cain again. What was it like working with him?
Yeah, that is awesome. It was great to be able to bring Deckard Cain back. Being able to work with Michael Goff again. There's a short BlizzCon line segment with him. He's such a beloved character in the Diablo franchise, so I'm glad we're able to do that. I love that we're able to visit characters that are fan favorites. But, you know, we want to be, you know, we're not just Diablo on mobile, it's a brand new game. And so, as part of a brand new game, we've got
Eso es lo que me jode. No es solo Diablo en móvil, es todo un nuevo juego. Coño, pues dámelo en un sitio, en una plataforma en la que lo juegue a gusto.
Main antagonists in the game. You've also got
nuevo lore, eventos.
Lethis. We're going to be exploring the storylines behind Vala and Josen. Vala, go to the Demon Hunter, being able to learn
Josen,
more
Sul,
about
nuevas
her
historias,
and her
nuevo lore.
history. We've got all new stories to explore.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much I missed Deckard Cain until I got off the boat, like you said. And I'm like, man, yeah, this is awesome.
He's back.
He's like the glue of the franchise almost, you know, it's awesome.
You know, one of our goals was to be a mobile MMO. And one of the ways that, you know, we really focused on is having a cool town hub like Westmarch. I don't know if you felt like Westmarch made the game feel bigger?
Well, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, like there's a hub for everybody to go to, like a little town. But it's way cooler when you get to play it, because you're there and you get to see everybody running by, you get to check out everyone's gear, and it does feel a lot more alive. And it became one of my favorite features, I think, overall, just because it's like we were talking about WoW, you know, seeing people with certain gear and inspecting them, I think really kind of brings like the game and the community together.
I think one of the best parts is seeing all the different
en las ciudades se solapan los personajes y los jugadores y se ve, tiene la sensación de mundo grande y lleno.
Gear, or getting gems slotted in, or going to do some rifts or bounties. It's really cool to just watch people sort of like in the traffic, you know, going from here to there, and it
gente en
feels almost
tráfico,
like a
yendo de un
living
sitio a otro, hacer un
city,
evento,
right?
una falla,
There's a bunch of people just going
PvP.
about their day, and it feels very, you know,
Esto
like
pasa
you said,
entera
like,
y
you
en
know,
WoW y
live.
en otro
Yeah,
montón de
watching
sitios.
people take group selfies in,
Yeah, exactly.
in different sections.
That's
It was
right.
cool, yeah. I enjoyed it.
A central town hub was something that we wanted to do for Diablo 3. Back then, internally, we called it Player Town. And it never quite made it. In game development, you have to kind of pick and choose the features that you're going to incorporate, but I'm super thrilled that we were able to incorporate a capital city into this experience.
Vais a flipar.
One of the things I think is special about having a game with a capital town, and also just an online game where other players are always around, is you really get the sense that the world is real. You know, that like when you close down the app, when you aren't playing anymore, the world lives on without you and is alive without you. And I feel like
lo bonito, lo bueno de esto que están diciendo es que la capital, la ciudad, el mundo sigue avanzando sin ti. Cuando tú cierras, el mundo sigue evolucionando.
Bar in Westmarch and I'll be happy.
There is actually a bar in Westmarch. There wasn't a whole lot of reason to go there during Technical Alpha, but it's got a whole tavern vibe in there and go hang out.
And to be able to sit and maybe order something or
Nos
hang
estáis
out.
viendo muy arriba y nos podemos comer un Warcraft 3 de nuevo fácilmente. Si el juego es gratis,
I think one
¿qué
of
más
the
da?
ways that Diablo Immortal is really trying to do something new is with the social aspects of the game.
De momento he visto que hay diferentes eventos PvP, diferentes eventos de mundo como este. Aunque fuera gratis o de pago o lo que sea, de momento lo que está ofreciendo es un puto MMO en tu mano. Y eso mola. Ahora hay que ver cómo de largo o de corto van a ser los eventos para que sea viable, porque antes he hablado de un evento PvP de 3 horas.
But providing incentives and rewards for interacting with other players, I think actually makes the game.
Hombre, Taco, ¿qué tal? Buenos días.
Yeah, speaking of like community, we did a dungeon together on Alpha.
No quiero
yes, we did. I had a lot of fun running that dungeon with you. So I was just watching your stream, you know, when the Tech Alpha was going on, there were a bunch of different content creators who had their streams going.
El press center de Diablo 4.
So I'm like, oh, well, let me jump on. And I remember I typed out in chat to you, I was like, hey, Blood, do you want to run a dungeon together?
Que entre otras cosas, pues tienes aquí las imágenes de los nuevos personajes
cool.
y todo.
I was able to jump on, we were able to party up, no problem.
Parecen las
I'm really
amazonas
glad the voice chat was there because
de la loca esta.
I was like, well, you're streaming. How do we get on voice? Like, do we need to like get onto Discord somehow? But since you were streaming the game, I think it all just worked out and all the audio passed through, and that was a good time. I think that was one of my highlights from the Technical Alpha.
Oh, that's awesome. That means a lot. So I gotta ask you guys, are there
Diablo
any
2 es
plans
un
for
remake.
controller support?
Muy mal se tiene que dar para que salga tan mal como
most
Warcraft
requested
3.
things that we got coming out of Technical Alpha. And so you are not alone in wanting to be able to sit comfortably and play with a Bluetooth controller.
Parece feliz, ¿eh?
We're actually going to be investigating how we can bring in controller support in the future, and we are very excited that the community responded so positively to it. And so nothing to announce today, but definitely look for updates on this in the future.
Yeah, the touch controls are really good. I would use them for any kind of quick gameplay sessions, you know, when I'm out and about or doing things, but you know, when I'm kind of plopping down for the day, it would be cool to kind of switch to controller mode and kick back. Did you guys play in any areas outside of your home?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite experiences is being able to just take my dog out for a walk and, you know, play. I was just taking my dog for a walk. I was at an intersection and the PvP event in Balfen came up, and I was just like, I'm gonna do it from here. Super convenient to be able to just, play from the park or wherever.
No me parece mal del todo, te vas al parque, te echas una partidilla.
That, you know, he could play while he was waiting at the doctor's office, and it's almost like, okay, you're up. Like, no, you can go. I'll keep waiting.
5 more minutes.
Don't worry about me.
Wherever I was out, where I could play, you know, comfortably, I was playing Immortal, and it was a cool experience to be able to just play it wherever I was and kind of get progress on my account.
What kind of stuff did you enjoy doing?
That was actually my favorite thing about Immortal. Was the amount of activities you could do. There's like these layers out in the open world. There's legendary mobs. Like there's a lot, but I think layers, hunting for layers, or like hidden dungeons. It kind of gave me some of those D2 vibes.
Hacer mazmorras,
What was the
cazar
max
únicos.
rank normal gem that you got during
Estas son las gemas
technical alpha?
normales.
Not too much. I think a 5. Does that sound right? I think it was like level 5 for the normal gems.
5
Nivel 5
definitely
consiguió
requires-
llevar
that sounds like, you know, 10 to 12 hours of grinding a day.
12
for a
horas
while.
para subir una gema normal a nivel 12.
I mentioned were one of my favorite kind
Ahora me
of
gustaría que le pregunten por la
activities to do
legendaria y
in
diga 6
Mortal.
meses.
I noticed some of the tile sets look like D3 assets, and are we going to get like a more variety of tile sets and layers?
In technical alpha, we had 2 of those tile sets intentionally, just for that small test. But we plan on adding a lot of diversity and variety to those tile sets. And there should be a difference between what you see in a Rift, which sort of like takes its tile set from a global pool of different things you can see, versus like a layer, where a layer could be inside Biofin or Ashwold Cemetery, and the layer below a cemetery should look different than the layer below a jungle or a frozen mountain or whatever the zone is. And so we're putting a lot of effort to make sure that there's diversity there and that it feels connected to the world above it.
That's really cool. So if it's like a foresty type zone,
que cada una de esas fallas en las que te metes esté conectada con el mundo, pero que tenga suficiente diversidad para que no siempre estés jugando lo mismo.
Increases the immersion. I like that idea.
Yeah, we want you to remember where you are in the surface world as you dive down into the layer, but that by no means limits the amount of diversity and like rich art we're able to put into each of these tile sets.
Did you expect players to grind so much in general, like with all the Paragon that we grinded and all the gem levels and everything?
There were some people who seriously went ham on it, for sure. Like, it was
¿Esperáis que la gente grinde mucho?
pretty impressive. And I mean, I took it as a compliment. You know, when people want to play the game that much, it means that we've made something special that people want to enjoy.
Alerta, los bichos son muy difíciles, ya es el tío paseándose sin problemas.
Limited technical alpha, it's only going for a short time, and progress isn't carrying forward. For people to play an RPG and invest time in a character that is ultimately going to be deleted really means that they're just having a lot of fun doing it, and that's great to see.
I was really surprised by how far people got in challenge rifts. Like, to see that was just awesome.
Abres una beta y se sorprende que la gente sea capaz de escalar bastante las fallas. No me jodas.
You know, some like developer powers. And so just to see in like, you know,
117 Paragon tiene el tío.
People, you know, just blowing the dev team away in terms of challenge rift progression. It was that's cool. That makes us really happy.
Probably got a lot of good data off of it from the alpha, I'm assuming.
We got a lot of cool clips on Twitch, man. Like, like we just got a lot of great observation, like just watching people play at that high level and seeing what skills they use, what do they talk about, what kind of gear or legendaries do they want. Like, that informs us a lot, just watching you guys play.
It was really cool to see sort of how a lot of the high-end players take on the game. It was also interesting to see how, like, just your average person walks into the game. We held the test primarily in Australia, and being able to see, you know, not like the elite top 5%, but just your average person who downloads the game. You know, how long does it take them to finish the tutorial? How many hours do they want to play?
¿Cuántas horas el tutorial? ¿Cuántas horas han jugado?
Coming back? Like, we've been gathering a lot of
¿Cuánta gente ha vuelto?
Extremely helpful.
Y tiene un montón de información del alfa que abrieron.
So I was there at Blizzcon 2018, and how do you think the announcement for Immortal went?
Pregunta delicada.
Yeah, that was rough. For sure. I think a lot of people came, they had Diablo 4 in the mind. And, you know, at one point during the Q&A, it was asked if the game would ever be coming to PC. And, you know, I had probably not the best response. And what went through my mind is I really wanted to be able to say, hey, you know, we're making Diablo 4. And that's not something that we could share at the time. An inappropriate remark came out instead. And I am glad that now hopefully people can see, you know, there's more Diablo on its way. We have a lot of love for the Diablo universe, and our goal ultimately is to provide more Diablo
lo que está diciendo básicamente es, oye, ¿qué pensáis de lo que pasó cuando fue el lanzamiento de de Diablo en 2018, porque fue cuando él dijo, ¿qué pasa? Es que no tenéis móviles, y se les abucheó un montón. Y de hecho, a ver, yo es que en ese momento se habría dicho, tranquilos, para PC tenéis Diablo 4 que lo estamos desarrollando, pero no podía decirlo, entonces quizás no tuve la mejor de las respuestas, pero bueno, ahora podéis ver que hay mucho más Diablo por venir y por tanto enfocar parte de la móvil de esta manera es una estrategia que tiene sus motivos.
And so I was able to look at Immortal, I guess, a different way, because in the back of my mind I knew like Diablo 4 was probably getting developed. But I streamed it and I regret nothing. It was fun, and I feel like I can tackle anything now.
Cool. Well, thanks for supporting the team.
Yeah.
We got feedback, and I think that really sustained the team through that time. Is for the people who played it at BlizzCon. There was a lot of feedback that said, you know, this is good. You know, I think the game kind of spoke
Él no tiene nada que ver con Diablo 4,
and,
el productor de Diablo 4 es el de Gears of War. YH no tiene nada que ver con Diablo 4.
Future where we can get the game in more people's hands so they can see for themselves.
What's next? Like, is there another testing phase? Like, what's happening?
We will have a new testing phase. Which
es el diseñador de Diablo Immortal y este el productor.
A new class, and we're really excited to bring that to a wider audience as well. Potentially for a longer period of time. Our previous test was only 2.5 weeks, and so we're looking at our next test as an opportunity to test more in-game systems.
Habrá futuros test, lo están diciendo, no vamos a tener lanzamiento pronto.
Announce more about that very soon.
Oh, so you're saying all the stuff that we've experienced is still not the true endgame that you have planned?
Oh, no. No, we have an epic endgame planned for Diablo Immortal, and for the technical alpha it was very much focused on just that like early and mid game, and so
el alfa ha sido el early y mid game y el endgame no van a ser fallas como Diablo 3, habrá más.
Not the sole endgame of Immortal, we have a lot more planned.
The level cap of the technical alpha was set at 45 for the
el alfa tuvo nivel 45 de techo,
60.
Pero el juego va a tener nivel 60 de techo.
You know, at 45, we wanted there to be something for players to do, which is why we have the challenge rifts. But the Tech Alpha was really focused on the early leveling experience and the mid-game systems.
Se les ha dejado probar las fallas superiores, pero hay muchas más cosas de endgame aparte de las fallas superiores.
For the Elder game.
Well, I had a blast playing the alpha. I had an awesome time hanging out with you guys today. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, Bloodshed, thanks a lot.
Yeah, Blood, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been amazing to be part of BlizzCon, and I look forward to what's to come.
Bueno, aprovechamos que está terminando este panel, a ver si aguanta un par de minutos hasta que empiece el siguiente, y os leo. Diablo 2 Resurrected es la remasterización definitiva de Diablo 2 y su expansión Lord of Destruction, dos grandes hitos de la laureada serie de rol y acción con la que Blizzard Entertainment definió el género. Tanto los jugadores veteranos como aquellos que se perdieron en el juego original en su momento hace 20 años pueden disfrutar ahora de la temporal jugabilidad de Diablo 2 con mejoras en los gráficos y el sonido para aprovechar el hardware de hoy en día. Principales características de Diablo 2 Resurrected. Se trata de la experiencia completa de Diablo 2, con versiones remasterizadas de Diablo 2, la expansión Lord of Destruction e incontables horas de aventura y aniquilación de demonios. Los jugadores podrán explorar el santuario de sus pesadillas, ahora en una resolución 4K. Los modelos originales 2D basados en sprites ahora dan paso a una renderización en 3D con base física. La mejora gráfica incluye nuevas animaciones, iluminación dinámica, nuevas texturas y textos visuales actualizados. Los gráficos remasterizados se pueden desactivar para disfrutar de toda la nostalgia de una experiencia más original con solo pulsar un botón. Se han rehecho desde cero los 27 minutos de escenas de vídeo del juego fotograma a fotograma. El audio ahora va a ser 7.1. Elige tu propio aventurero. En la emblemática pantalla de la fogata aguardan 7 de los mayores campeones del santuario: la amazona, la asesina, el bárbaro, el druida, el nigromante, el paladín y la hechicera. Cada uno de ellos se puede personalizar al máximo con incontables opciones de equipación. Reavivad vuestras relaciones con antiguos amigos con Deckard Cain o Tirael, el arcángel de la justicia. La experiencia de juego con la que Diablo definió un género como una sola progresión de personajes de rol, un sistema de objetivos, combate salvaje y visceral. Expansión a una nueva generación. El oscuro legado de la saga llega por primera vez a Xbox, PlayStation, etc. Diablo 2 Resurrected se puede disfrutar en solitario o en una partida cooperativa con 8 amigos en vuestras plataformas favoritas. Y ahora, si lo que queréis es soltar un poco de tensión y arrancar algunas cabelleras, podéis participar en emocionantes duelos, jugador contra jugador, a las afueras de la ciudad. Ascended por la torre olvidada, abríos paso por las junglas de Kuras y echad abajo las puertas del infierno para derrotar a Diablo en persona. Y luego subid hasta la cima del monte Aread para enfrentaros a Baal, el señor de la destrucción, en la torre del mundo de piedra. Precomprar la edición de colección de Windows PC, la Diablo Prime Evil Edition, incluye Diablo 2 Resurrected, Diablo 3 con la expansión Reaper Souls, el pack el de despertar del nigromante y en los objetos cosméticos exclusivos. Si en vez de 60 euros pagáis 50 es porque lo tenéis todo y son 10 euros más por las aras y la pet. Alfa técnica en PC próximamente, ya podéis apuntaros en diablo2.com. La resolución 4K y el doble Surround 7.1 requieren plataformas y equipo compatibles con esas funciones. Renace la edad de oro de Diablo. Vuelven los héroes. Diablo 2 Resurrected trae a los tiempos modernos un variado elenco de personajes, ahora en 3D, con multitud de opciones de configuración y mecánicas para explorar. A la amazona, el bárbaro, el nigromante, el paladín y la hechicera se le suman la asesina y el druida de la expansión Lord of Destruction. Para enfrentarse a males legendarios, luchad contra Andariel, Duriel, Mephisto, Diablo y Baal, los enemigos más formidables del infierno, derrotadlos si podéis y luego afrontad desafíos aún mayores en los modos de dificultad de pesadilla e infierno. Un gran sistema de objetos conlleva una gran responsabilidad. La guerra que libran los jugadores contra los infiernos abrasadores no está exenta de recompensas. Entre las mejoras de los objetos tenemos, entre otras, armas y armaduras únicas, objetos de conjunto, runas y palabras rúnicas o dijes. No sé lo que será o dijes, pero todo lo demás son mejoras respecto de todo lo que ya teníamos, además de tener un inventario más grande. Para quien quiera leérselo por sí mismo, releerlo, lo que sea, ahí tenéis el enlace para que le podáis echar un vistazo. Ay. Vamos a echar un vistazo al resto de canales, a ver cómo va la Blizzcon. A ver qué tenemos en el canal principal ahora mismo. En vivo, entre bastidores, o sea, nada. World of Warcraft, en vivo, hablando de las voces. En Hearthstone, en vivo, hablando de una partida de EducaTDC. Y Frodan. Diablo, nada, de momento está esperando. Aunque va a empezar el mundo gótico de Brom. Este es el diseñador gráfico. Luego viene el repaso al fondo de Diablo y las preguntas de Diablo. No, las preguntas mañana. Nos quedan dos paneles. Este que son 20 minutillos, 25 minutillos del hijo preguntándole al padre. Este es el diseñador y este es el entrevistador. Y luego el repaso a fondo de Diablo, que van a ser otros 50 minutos.
Devin Brom, or as I like to call him, son. Can you talk about some of your early influences? I think we'll have to start with my background as far as my lifestyle, meaning my father was an Army aviator, so we traveled all over the world. We moved every 3 years. The first 3 years of my life was in Japan, where I was subjected to just a barrage of Japanese animation and Godzilla films
vale, un poco de feedback, gente. No sé si se oye bien, si no se oye bien, si lo estáis disfrutando, si no, si estáis tan hypeados como yo. Si queréis contarme alguna cosa, es el momento.
Yo veo muchas trazas de MMO en Immortal y en Diablo 4.
No sé esa idea. Vende mucho mejor. Su mejor juego hasta ahora es el WoW.
There was always a group of geeky fantasy nerds, you know, waiting to draw wherever I went. And then I finally graduated high school in Frankfurt, Germany. And what was so amazing about Frankfurt is I was just immersed in, you know, Gothic medieval culture. And at that time, I was so into fantasy, so that really, you know,
fed into un poco el volumen de vídeo, Nicro.
Inspiration for what I was doing. On top of that, there were a lot of direct influences. Being a child of the 70s, there was a lot of
sí, la cinemática de Diablo 4 no era Full HD.
But I think my primary influence is literature, even more so than movies. Big fan of Robert E. Howard and the Conan series, Edgar Rice Burroughs and John Carter.
¿Qué estaría haciendo de aquí si no comento nada? ¿Qué diferencia habría entre veros el stream directo y verlo a través de mí? De momento, lo único que está hablando este señor, que es uno de los diseñadores gráficos, es sus propias influencias. ¿Por qué siempre me ha gustado dibujar cosas macabras?
I'm talking 2 years old, and a skull. It's like the skull. I have to have the skull. I don't quite understand what that's all about. Things I often point out to maybe help people understand this is.
Sí, Diablo 3 lo podéis dar por enterrado, ¿eh? Tal y como ha quedado esta Blizzcon, me extrañaría mucho que tengamos algún otro parche. Si hay algún otro parche de balance, que lo dudo, no va a ser pronto.
Not only does that become interesting to them, but it becomes interesting to us. I want to see their scary toasters. And one of the many things that warped me down the path.
El lanzamiento de este año va a ser el
Diablo 2. El Diablo Inmortal cuenta con toca tierra, ¿eh?
Para ahí lo dejan para principios del año que viene.
Qué buena pinta. ¿Nos vemos otra vez el trailer de Diablo Immortal?
Han cambiado el Battle.net. A mí no me sale así ya.
¿Cómo es que no, Fuego? El vagabundo. Ya sabes lo que busco.
Dejo al otro hablando de fondo.
Esos demonios de mis sueños. Inaceptable. Yo lo dejaré en su sofá. Diablo. La puerta está lista. Aunque esta puede ser nuestra hora más tenebrosa, también puede ser tu momento de mayor gloria.
El total de personajes jugables. Los personajes jugables en Diablo 4 van a ser 8 o 9 mínimo. Qué guapas se ven las cucarachas. Qué lástima que no metan las mejoras del proyecto Diablo 2.
Ni siquiera la muerte puede librarte de mí.
A proyecto Diablo 2 le acaban de hacer la puñeta que lo flipas, Acaban de hacer un montón de inversión en toda la interfaz y en todo, y les acaban de hacer la puñeta que flipas.
Normal suburban community that we grew up in.
Being two weirdos,
¿Te vas?
it was
Alínica.
easy for us to encourage you guys
¿Qué es
to
casi
be as
usted?
weird as you wanted.
Absolutely, no.
Diablo 3 tiene 8 años de recorrido. Yo creo que va siendo hora de ir cambiando. Bueno, a gustos colores. A mí me habría gustado que siguieran dándole un poco de amor y cariño. Entiendo que ya no es una nueva IP, que ya no es productivo, pero creo que se podían hacer cosas. No un... ¿Tenéis un Goblin? Pues ahora dos. A lo mejor una... Lánzame el... Lo vamos a meter en modo estacionario y os lanzamos una nueva temporada que lo tiene todo. Contratos dobles, goblins dobles, esquirlas dobles, experiencia doble, y de verdad lo dejas en un modo mantenimiento con todo ultra bufado. Déjalo así. No me metas rotaciones chorras como la de ahora. Cambiaron la interfaz de Blizzard, dale a actualizar, pero que a mí me la muestra igual.
A mí
no sé qué estáis haciendo vosotros para que os la cambie.
Yo he abierto el...
¿Se ve mejor ahora o qué?
Te paso un fotónico. Un segundo. A mí no me gusta, la verdad. Se ve rara.
Yo tengo la antigua.
Un segundito.
Las temporadas creo que duran demasiado. Tenía sentido cuando las jugábamos 3 meses, pero hace mucho que no lo hacemos.
Te la paso por Telegram.
Es la beta que está hace un tiempo. Soy el único que sigue en Diablo 3, pues es muy probable, compañero.
Could you tell us a little bit about applying to TSR?
Yeah, that's quite the story. So I go to conventions and I was talking to art directors, and my portfolio was a bit lacking at the time, I have to admit. And I talked to the art director at Dragon Magazine, which worked
en el canal de Go que hay un Witch Doctor. Hostias, qué hijo de puta. Qué hijo de puta. Qué hijo de puta.
Hostia, tío.
¡Hijos de puta!
It really calls upon us to bring ourselves into a different type of light and to accept our darkness, because that's how we transmute it into light. You know, the light is just not there. The light is already within you, but it's okay. And giving yourself the opportunity to say, you know what, it's okay that I feel this way. It's okay that I'm going through this. I'm fine with this because I'm going to use this to transmute it into something else. And it took me a long time to do that prior to any of this. In such a dark descent in my life.
Estoy buscándola porque en realidad sí se parece bastante a Médico Brujo, ¿eh?
In the process of being prepared, the one thing I wanted to not lose control
que no te extrañe que se basaran en ella para hacer... Bueno, no sé cuánto tiempo lleva trabajando. Sí, bueno, no sé si ella es trabajadora de Blizzard.
Hijos de puta que sois.
And I want to know how you are, and I haven't spoken to you in a while, and thank goodness for Zoom, and thank goodness for FaceTime, and being able to go, all of those things I can now use in such a powerful way to connect, because I was making sure that I stayed connected in both
se parece un huevo, lo miréis como lo miréis. Solo que estas extensiones de las orejas las tendré que llevar en la boca. Lleva la misma extensión, ¿eh? La misma, idéntica, también así como una U. Igual, igual, igual. Buen cosplay, dicen por ahí. Sois un poco cabrones.
5 hours later, I was working at TSR. That's incredible. All right, so how did you first connect with Blizzard?
Estos dos también parecen felices, ¿eh? ¿Qué os hablando antes de empezar las entrevistas?
Diablo has such a long history in our family. And when I got my first PC, a couple games on it, and Diablo 1.
No lo sé, pero las sonrisillas que están teniendo...
Right from the start, this was the game for me. Soon, you know, I was spending 2 hours a day playing Diablo. I was supposed to be working, so I actually had to ask your mother to hide the CD so I could get work done. I think the big thing I want to say about my connection with Diablo and
no lo tuitees, Gañán. Pues me tienta, ¿eh? ¿Me dejáis tuitearlo?
What's wonderful.
And I'm not kidding, I go,
¿qué hago, abogado? ¿Me das permiso para tuitearlo, abogado?
I'm not, because I feel like it's easy to go to
me tienta muy fuertemente. Dime que sí, por favor.
Because you see things differently in a way that reminds us how to be human. So I think that one of the benefits of this pandemic is slowing us down and connecting us in ways that we in some ways we forgot how to be connected. We're so distracted.
Ay, la Virgen. Me lo pasaría muy bien si me dejaran.
¡Perraza! Design team, and that just sounded like a dream job. So even though I was like, I probably won't be able to get this, I still applied for it.
El Diablo Resurrected tiene fecha de lanzamiento, finales diciembre de 2021 o antes.
Interview, I just clicked immediately with the people there. They're all just they spoke the same language. Exactly. No, like they've all been playing Diablo for as long as I have and stuff. So it's just really easy to get along with them.
Diablo Inmortal. Mejora a la Prime Bill Collection, como yo ya tengo Diablo, por solo 49,99. Me cobran 10 euros menos porque yo ya tengo... O sea, por solo 10 euros más me venden Diablo 2 y unas alas. Y aquí dice fecha de lanzamiento. Diablo 2 Resurrected sale en diciembre de 2021 o antes. Por cierto, tengo como 40 flechas. Ya hablaremos. Enriquecidas. Eso es todo bueno. Sí, me he gastado 200
El abogado te está diciendo que le controla.
Solo te digo una cosa, Alfa de Diablo 2, soy un chico bueno. Bueno. O sea, vamos a hacer un trato, gente que estáis viendo el stream. Si no nos dejan jugar al Alfa de Diablo 2, sois 800. Vamos a pensar que a alguno de vosotros le caiga. ¿Me dejáis un poquillo que la juegue si os cae? Si no, digo yo, alguno de vosotros será toma juego mío. Digo porque si es así, yo ahora digo lo que pienso. Y si no, me toca callarme un poco. Y no tuitear cosas chulas. ¿Qué opinamos? ¿Me dejáis tuitear cosas chulas? Vale. Entonces puedo tuitear cosas chulas. ¡Epa! ¡Me dejan! ¡Puedo decir lo que pienso! Vamos a ver a Médico Brujo. Me gusta más que estos dos señores.
Steve, what about you? How you doing?
Ponme la médico brujo.
Keep yourself healthy.
Ponme la médico brujo.
A game about the afterlife. So, A, how are you? Then talk about. Start there. How are you? How are you doing?
You know, doing pretty good, like everybody else. There's.
No, este no es el médico brujo.
It's, you know, the important thing to remember is that none of this is an equation to be solved. Like, you don't just figure it out and go, oh, okay, I'm good now. It's fine to have those ups and downs, to have good days and bad days. That's natural.
And just weather the storm.
And just weather the storm, and just, you know, keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
But
so, what was it like then?
It was
just so weird that we're this game Shadowlands and the things while there's a pandemic going on. So, did you have to meet with a team to kind of go, okay, we're going to go into this dark place while the world is kind of dark? What was that creative process like?
Well, it was, you know, we were already had things underway. These expansions take so long to, you know, from first conception to agreeing upon, you know, the basic ideas to developing those out. So everybody knew what we were going to be doing. Everybody was already kind of bought into that. But you know, the crazy thing is that so much of my job, like I have two major phases of it, and
Sin máscara, por favor.
The first phase is like getting people together and jamming on ideas and sharing the story ideas,
no me termina de convencer.
And kind of honing out so the best ideas rise to the top.
De hecho, es que esta tiene melena, esto no me gusta. Vamos a hacer la versión macho.
We're all sitting around a table, we're all jamming on stuff and just feeding off one another's energy, and that face-to-face connection was super important.
Sí se parece.
And then another part of my job is, you know, after those ideas get distilled down, is kind of like preaching it to other people, like going to different groups, to the engineers, to the sound team, to whomever, and saying, this is what we're doing, and getting all excited.
You've played it 100 times basically, and you know what to expect. Again, with that collaborative nature, we're always
El hombre se parece mucho más,
dungeon artists,
ya no te invitan a la próxima Blizzcon.
And quest design, especially on campaign dungeons. It usually starts off with a back and forth discussion with the dungeon design team and the quest designers.
Por eso no me da metas
trying to figure out
totalmente.
what the story is there, what we're trying to convey and progress
Os recuerdo,
the story of the overall game.
Voy a tirarme piedras contra mi propio tejado, pero bueno. Os recuerdo que tenéis por ahí streameando a Diablo Next, que está por ahí Frodo, que fue uno de los que sí consiguió beta. Por si os apetece escuchar su punto de vista.
And just be like, oh my god, this horrible thing, look what this horrible thing Devin's doing to us now, oh my god.
Se me hace raro no ver a JJ aquí.
Sí,
JJ debería estar presente. JJ, venga usted. Es JJ Donostias.
Dad, could you tell us a little bit about your personal work?
Bueno, le tengo mucho respeto a esta gente, pero son un hijo y un padre hablando de sus cosas. Con vuestro permiso, nos vamos a ver otra vez el tráiler de Diablo 2. ¿Verdad que sí? ¿Verdad que sí? Venga, vamos a vernos el tráiler de Diablo 2, que me gusta más. No, el anterior, este. Después ponemos el del 4.
La puerta está lista.
Que VA de no se puede ver el clip.
Nuestra hora más
lo tienes que whispear.
También puede ser tu momento de mayor gloria.
Hasta luego, Ruffer. Queda todavía un panel tocho, ¿eh? Esta noche queda un panel tocho.
En 4 minutos.
Qué guapo el multishoot. Se viene un nigromante, lo sabéis, ¿no? O una asesina, no lo tengo muy claro.
¿Cómo está el druida en Diablo 2?
Rotísimo si lo juegas a mana, pero a elementalista, pero necesita mucho tiempo para no funcionar. Al final el 40 así le cuesta. El equipo. Y él está tanqueando todo, que roto está ese bárbaro.
Ni siquiera la muerte puede librarte de mí.
Está guapísimo. Vale, vamos a ver el anuncio del personaje nuevo también.
Pon el audio de la oreja.
No
Es el momento.
Pero si no os importa, voy a dejar el tráiler del gameplay. Este ya lo hemos visto 3 o 4 veces.
Porque acción, el lazo, bien hecho.
La pícara.
¡Para! ¡Basta!
Soy una ladrona, una hereje, una asesina, padre.
Guapísimo.
¿Me salvará Karat?
¿Ha acabado ya Diablo? Uy, micro.
¿Pero empecé lo siguiente o están en espera?
Están haciendo la transición de momento.
Vale, avísame cuando empiece, por favor.
Ok.
Tú has respondido a sus plegarias.
De acuerdo, entonces.
Teoría en 2
Estás
minutillos.
en deuda conmigo.
El nombre que busca. Eres una bendición de...
No me han enviado los cielos.
Ahí se viene el gameplay. Muestra las tripas al bicho. Me apetece un montón jugarlo. Tiene un gameplay que me apetece jugar. Gracias, Sabas. Buen momento para avisarme. Joder, la... Pero si la vas es gratis, desgraciados. Ahí viene el sonido. Yo sé que lo estoy esperando. Espera, que lo pongo a tope. ¡Ah! ¡Qué asco! ¡Qué hijos de puta!
Dragon Magazine, which
Pon en el canal de WoW que hay un Witch Doctor.
Hostias,
qué hijo de puta.
¡Qué
hijo de puta!
¡Qué
hijo de puta! ¡Hijo de puta! Cabrones, le han hecho el clip. Ya te vale. Soy muy mala gente. Vale, lo que toca ahora es repaso a fondo de Diablo. 50 minutos de repaso a fondo de Diablo y chapa la Blizzcon hasta mañana. Vale, os voy a mostrar un momentito el guión, que sería este. Estamos aquí. Estamos en este punto. Después de este punto se acaba la Blizzcon por hoy, así que estamos aquí. Este es el punto en el que estamos. De hecho, si todo va según yo creo, lo que va a pasar va a ser que después de que este se tiene que estar emitido también en el panel principal. Pues entonces debería venir ahora en el panel principal. Dicho eso, seguimos.
El panel principal se pone que empieza en media hora, pero aquí pone que debería haber empezado ya, vaya.
En una parte donde hace un salto en las escaleras aparece un golem de oro, es posible.
People who have these disabilities. I definitely think working at Blizzard has been the right move for me. Being able to work with the people, being able to work on something you love, being able to
Diablo 2 va a salir para PlayStation 4 y PlayStation 5.
So important. I love
y Nintendo Switch,
it's really cool and I wake up every day excited to go to work and that's really special.
Nicro, creo que empieza ya.
Sí. Vamos a ello. Se viene el nuevo panel.
I love Brom's work. I mean, it gives me nightmares, but and who can forget the iconic Diablo?
Brom es el diseñador que hemos visto hace un momento.
But that brings us to our surprise announcement today. Diablo 2 Resurrected. After 20 years, the genre-defining legendary game is back, but now as a full HD remaster. That's 4K visuals, 7.1 sound, and a shot-for-shot remake of all the cinematics.
GG.
It's been a great partnership working with Vicarious Visions on the game, and we're so glad they're
Con
now
Vicarious
officially part
Visions.
of the Blizzard family. So to give you more info on D2R, I'm very excited to have D2 speedrunner and content creator Mr. Llama host a round table with members of the development team, both Blizzard and VB, as they answer all his burning questions.
Vale, vamos a hacer lo mismo que hemos hecho antes con Bloodseed, con Diablo Inmortal, pero esta vez va a ser Mr. Llama con la gente de Vicarious Visions y con la gente de Blizzard. Mr. Llama, para quien no lo conozca, es un speedrunner bastante famosete, un puto pro.
Alright, we're gonna watch the video sent to us. Wait, we got Kane back? Oh, it's 2. It's 2. It's Diablo 2 Remastered. It's Diablo 2 Remastered. Come on. Come on. Show it to me.
Though this be our darkest hours, it may yet
there we
be
go.
Your greatest moment.
I knew it was there somewhere. Somewhere out there I knew. Somewhere out there. Yo, sick. Ooh, love the campfire. Oh, that multi-shot looks awesome. Wow.
Sé que es la cuarta o quinta vez que veo el trailer, pero sigo embobado mirándolo callado. Me flipa.
And console, okay. Alright. That'll be interesting. Oh, that leap attack was awesome. Oh. Oh, the Diablo fight is gorgeous.
El nivel de zoom también ayuda,
Oh, resurrected. Let's go. Come on.
Vuelve al infierno en 2021,
I'm Mr. Llama SC. I am a Twitch streamer. I have been playing Diablo 2 for 20 years, streaming it for 6 years. I probably have over 25,000 hours in this game and just absolutely love it. So seeing the remaster happen, I have to just, of course, ask a very first high-level question. Why the D2 remaster right now?
Well, Diablo 2 is a very
¿Por qué lo he remasterizado ahora?
As many of you well know, and Diablo 2 also had its 20th year anniversary. So with that, we really wanted to stay true to what that authentic experience was for Diablo 2 and bring it to the current audience and improve it for the existing audience and invite new people to experience it for the first time. It's also good learning opportunities too for us, especially when we're partnering up with Vicarious Visions now to work on a remaster projects like this together.
So it's been a great partnership. We've actually worked with Blizzard for a while now, a couple years, even starting with some BattleNet integration type things. We just finished Tony Hawk Remaster. Before that, we did Crash Bandicoot Remasters, and it just seemed like a perfect match for us to work together.
It was a shock to my system to first to come in and then see that it's a remaster trailer. Was not expecting that. But then to see the complete shift in the design and the art and everything.
25.000 horas lleva este tío jugadas.
More about how you came up with the process for how you want to remaster the look of it, right? How you wanted it to visually exist. And I'd love to bring in Chris Amaral to talk about some of that. Chris, can you discuss a little bit of the philosophy and
la filosofía que habéis tenido a la hora de hacer el rediseño
around this remaster?
So luckily we had a ton of good inspiration from the original D2 art. Our primary focus is always nostalgia, right? We want to make sure we focus on getting this right and deliver an authentic experience that players remembered from 20 years ago. Every choice we make with the art, with the models, with the environments should really ignite that nostalgia.
Parece muy avanzado el proyecto, ¿no? Y este parece que pestañea un par de veces.
But then we came up with like a 70-30 visual guide. 70% is basically the classic. This is where we don't touch what works, right? We want to maintain those iconic shapes, colors, tones. Everything should be one-to-one.
Si sale a finales de año o antes.
We want things to feel authentic and preserve those original designs. With the 30% new, like that's kind of like where we're going to elevate that art. Every change we make should really signify that step forward visually.
I also noticed that the game was 3D.
70% lo traen del original, 30% es nuevo por la adaptación del entorno, la iluminación, el modelizado.
Well, I mean, evolving from a 2D sprite game, like a 2D image game, to a 3D is very challenging. We basically had to write
¿Cómo es convertir un 2D en 3D?
PBR
Han tenido que escribirlo entero de nuevo y renderizarlo entero de nuevo.
The old game logic. It's difficult because you're dealing with, you know, models versus 2D sprites, where you have to basically write. You have dynamic lighting, you have dynamic VFX.
Los efectos, las luces, la luz dinámica.
That we have to work out on our end.
So the follow-up to that question, I suppose, is I wasn't able to see any items when I was watching that trailer. Are all of the items also going to be remastered? All of the gems?
Los ítems van a ser remasterizados. Todos y cada uno de ellos.
What sort of flavor did you decide to add to that artwork?
So everything is being redone. So we remodeled everything.
Se ha rehecho todo, todos los modelos.
So you have your icon art, and then you have your 3D space art that flips, right? So we had to basically model everything. And as far as the inspiration, we actually were inspired by some original documentation that we found from.
Nos inspiramos en el original de Blizzard, ¿no?
There was a huge Word doc of like where the original artists pulled inspiration from. So a lot of that was like very like, you know, historical landmarks, locations, and very much real world referencing. So that was kind of where we kind of pulled our inspiration as well. We wanted that functional design that the original art had. Everything felt like it was believable, and that detail really does help to give it some realistic context and makes you feel more immersed in the game. Like it makes you feel like you're part of this world when you can see every little buckle and strap.
I remember when we went into the tavern and there was garlic hanging from a beam, and we're all like, what's the garlic? And you know, this is all full 3D everything, and then they're like, oh yeah, there was garlic in the old game. We go back and it's like 4 white sprites, and you're like, holy cow, yeah, garlic, and there's hams hanging and everything. So it was really cool to see, like, to see almost for the first time.
It's funny because original SD, like, it was made in all 3D. So we actually came across a bunch of screenshots that were a different camera. Like, it wasn't the isometric camera. It was like either marketing art or something else, or maybe just exploration. But there was shots of that garlic in the original art. You could never really see it in the pixel art, but it was there. So it was telling that they were really trying to achieve something very.
¿En serio hemos dedicado un minuto y medio a hablar de ajos?
I'm not gonna lie, I never knew that they had garlic hanging in there. I mean, maybe a couple white sprites. I thought
un minuto y medio para hablar de ajos.
Who knows? No clue. But that makes me excited to go look around now and just like explore.
Bueno, entiendo que la idea es había detalles que no veíais y ahora podéis ver.
Well, you see it now too, because also we have, you know, the one new feature for the art on the art side of things.
Somos para circulación.
So it, you know,
2021 será el lanzamiento. Diciembre 2021 como muy tarde.
I really felt strongly that like a lot of ARPGs that come out now all have a zoom feature. This will really get you up and close and
y el hecho de poder darle zoom ahora es diferente. Porque puedes ver los detalles de las armas, las habilidades, las runas.
Legacy toggle feature where you can flip back between the old visuals of the game and our current visuals. It's not even just a simple art swap. It is really the old game running underneath, because like Chris was mentioning, our new our graphics engine is running on top of the game. And is mimicking what is running underneath. It's still following all the same data and rules and timings of everything.
Sigue siendo la misma reglas, datos, todo del original, pero convirtiéndolo. No es solo un reescalado, 70% es original.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that specifically, because when I go into Diablo 2, I'm thinking 25 FPS, and like you said, the game is built on that. My faster casting, my hit recovery, all of this stuff is built on 25 FPS. So how do you create a game at 60 FPS?
Lo han transformado a 25 FPS
de 60. And how the game talks with the server and everything like that runs on that cycle, and that hasn't changed. So we still have benchmarks in all of our content say for animations of when a hit frame occurs, how long it can recover, and all of that. That all matches exactly. Now it can run at a faster frame rate, and so modern games run on time, not frames. So we've done that, but all of the logic still runs on those same things. So you can wait for your breaks to occur, all of those things still happen at the exact same.
O sea, lo que han hecho ha sido que donde antes recorría en 25 frames, ahora va a recorrer en 60. Han hecho el export de pasar de frames a tiempo, porque ahora se mide en tiempo. Entonces no vamos a tener, ahora los personajes no van a ser más rápidos. Simplemente el motor va a calcular diferente.
So you'd have your character and they're rendered out at so many angles, and the monsters even less. But you could actually walk at greater directions, right? You have, I think it was 64 different squares around you that you would path to, and you'd have feet sliding. We've increased that, so now there's more granularity. Obviously it's 3D, your character can run straight, but underneath the hood, I mean, this is a game made back when the inspiration was tabletop games, and so the game is a grid. So it still respects that grid, right? Like
el juego original era una retícula y se respeta la retícula.
Small amounts because you push the stick a little bit, but it's still, you're either in a run state or a walk state. Stamina is still a thing. You're still on a grid. Like all of that logic, once again, is all being driven by the old game. That hasn't changed.
Se supone que han hecho un rework, pero muy respetando mucho el original.
Also, like, it was very challenging because you only had a few of the frame counts to make that animation. So it wasn't
este es el Diablo 3 de verdad. Bueno.
Tons of different keys to make it very fluid animation. But we had to really like maintain that timing, that pace. The posing was a big focus for us too. We wanted to get those iconic poses for each character, and then just align that silhouette.
So continuing the talk of visuals, I want to talk about characters.
Mira, hablemos de los personajes, los cosméticos, cómo se ven.
That I love with Diablo 2 is just putting on, a scale mail, putting on a full plate mail, putting on a sacred armor, and seeing the character like have the different change.
¿Cómo se van a ver los ítems cuando yo me los equipo?
Some things still don't like reflect over in the color of it or whatnot, right? Some do, some don't. Is there going to be changes there, or is it just enhancing all of those visuals and making them just look even cooler?
So our goal was to basically be one-to-one with parity with the original game. So we built every piece of armor that was in the original game and is now in the remastered version. The only difference we did is with the icon items. So we now have a more connected visual with the icon and the item that drops in the game, where before you had different visuals. That's really the only thing we pushed on as far as modernization.
Yeah, so like shields or weapons, a lot of the unique items that you find in the game had special kind of icon arts, right? And that is something we're actually
Qué guapo se ve el nigromante, me cago en...
That definitely excites me. I think that's something a lot of people would love to see, a lance guard and have the cool stuff actually on their character there.
It will be the same model you see on those icons.
Are we going to see remastering of the cinematics in the game?
Se han remasterizado las cinemáticas, se ha remasterizado también el inventario.
28 minutes or whatever is going to be all remastered.
El alijo, solo el alijo, el inventario no el alijo.
It's going to look amazing, by the way. So.
Pareces contento, estoy contento. Me han presentado 3 juegos en la Blizzcon. No uno, 3. De Blizzcon las que ni hemos aparecido, esta en la que hemos tenido 3
as well
IPs.
As we've added additional, surround sound features. There's more ambient. There's
Tengo que estar
more
contento, no me
effects
jodas.
going on. It's just a richer experience if you want to play with your, full setup. However,
luego habrá que probarlo todo y ser crítico, pero de momento lo que me están vendiendo pinta muy bien. Ni yo con esperanza, hypeado, está contento.
If you put a skull into your inventory, that pop noise, we really could.
Don't change my skull sound.
Te dicen esta tarde que van a anunciar Diablo 2 Remaster.
Me lo han dicho.
Me
han dicho varias veces y he dicho en todo caso que no. Que no había pruebas.
It's going to have a lot more depth. When you go to the jungle, you'll hear a lot more life in those, trees. But yeah, there's just some sounds we couldn't mess with, right?
With Blizzard,
no van a meter las mejoras de Project Diablo 2 y cosas del estilo, ya lo han avisado. Es muy respetuoso con el juego original.
Find the fun. And when we were looking at D2 again, we very much felt like the fun is still there.
Seguramente va a salir Diablo Immortal en verano y Diablo 2 Remake en Navidad.
Diablo 2 Resurrected specifically was to keep the fun and keep it at its core. And because of that, we're looking at it more as a remaster at that point, and like what can we do based on what the community wants, or what features naturally are necessary for making this game run on modern day systems and things like that.
I think also we want to thank and appreciate the fan base, right? This is really a true nod to the original game.
Diablo 4 2 añitos.
That game and the structure of that game as much as we can. And if we went with the remake, it would be a completely different game. So I think that was the reason why we chose
me alegro, compañero.
Speaking,
de que tu parte viril esté más grande.
Experience, or from some of my community's experience and the discussions we've had, we definitely
no agrandan el inventario, solo el alijo.
With Diablo 2, a remaster just seemed like the way to go. Because there's so many, like you said, there's
en consola le dan 6 habilidades de golpe, en PC no, en PC seguimos con 2.
Overall, when you add them up, create such a big part of the experience of the game. And remaking that into a new game could be a challenge, and could also be a challenge in keeping the fun of the game in that way. I kind of look at it a little bit like StarCraft Brood War, which also had a remaster, and how it's like, a lot of the pathing bugs and the, you know, duds from the Reavers and all of these things in the game that were kind of awful are what make the game beautiful and what make the game super balanced. And if you were to go and remake it and remove some of those issues, it would change how the whole entire game plays. And so I felt like with Diablo 2, that's kind of the same idea, right? You got to keep some of those difficult details, because then it ends up creating you know, the overall experience that we all know and love.
Yeah, we also felt that, like, you know, for a game during its time back in 2000, you know, based on limitations, or everyone was still looking at strategy guides or just limited internet, it led to that kind of typical game design you see, where there was a lot of mystery, discovery. So we felt like that was another part of, like, you know, part of keeping the fun, which was to maintain that discovery of the game.
Vale, a grosso modo está diciendo, hay muchos detalles como los progresos, los balances progresivos y demás, pequeños bugs, pequeños arreglos. ¿Cómo hacéis para rehacer todo? Si copiáis del juego original, ¿cómo hacéis para rehacer todo? ¿Y qué pasa con esto? Algunos los mantenéis, otros los arregláis.
To bring this remaster to life.
So at its core, we want it to still be the same. So
Uro, tú tienes los F1 a F8.
Things like the balance, the monsters you see on the spawn rates, item drops and things like that.
Correcto, el parche de Diablo 3 son las alas y la mascota.
And what we're doing is trying to take any of the rough edges.
Que no me han contestado si las habían puesto.
Compatibility issues, resolution issues.
En Diablo te han dicho que no.
Obviously, the art, improving the arts as well.
No he dicho Alina.
All these kinds of things you come
to know from a remaster,
but still maintaining very much what the game is. So,
and when it comes to the features we added, this is probably the biggest area where we scrutinize so much. Is this addition straying too much?
Yo tengo las alas.
You know, does it still create the same gameplay experience and other things like that?
La mascota tampoco.
So, things like a shared stash, we know people use mule characters, right? And so adding a shared stash.
Vale, el stash. Sabemos que mucha gente tiene mulas y no queremos. Vamos a tener un stash compartido.
Now the way that the shared stash works is there are rules, right? You can't have your ladder characters mixing a stash with a non-ladder character.
Ah, tienes un stash personal. ¡Ay, qué cagada! Pensé que teníamos muchas más pestañas. Tienes un stash personal y uno compartido.
We're like, people do this anyway with a mule character, so it's okay to give them this feature.
That is like the greatest feature that you could add, because there's nothing
vamos a tener en vez de un stash, dos.
Going in,
y uno de ellos compartido.
Es muy poco.
Es muy poco.
Not being able to log back in, or the game's not created, or
vais a seguir necesitando mulas.
Losing all of your gear, or trying to find someone to help you transfer your gear over. Because oh my gosh, a shared stash is amazing. Thank you so much. That's such a help.
Like I said, maintaining the core was a thing, but the other aspect of it was
mola, pero es mejorable.
Where we can improve, right? So the shared stash is one of them, because we saw it as a very common concern, especially around muling, which people had workarounds anyway, right?
Qué guapo el reward de la gema.
Another example is we are reimagining the UI in the game. With a new reimagined UI, we're still trying to stay very faithful to what you come to expect. So you'll still have the classic globes on the HUD screen, the skill icons, the potion belts, and all that. But we are reorganizing a little bit. You know, we're trying to integrate.
Se acabaron las mulas aparentemente, lo cual es de 10.
Within the HUD, so it's built a little bit cleaner. And naturally with reimagining a UI, we have some liberties to add a few things. So going back to the information I was talking about, a big thing we're doing on the character screen is we're adding an advanced stats screen as well. So we're going to be showing you all the information,
la pestaña de vida y un avance de stats. Que esto lo tenías en el F8 muchas veces. Se agradece la pestaña de avance de stats. Regeneración de maná, regeneración de estamina. Va a haber un alijo personal y alijos compartidos. Rimas muy bien de momento. 3 diablos estamos viendo.
We've also added auto gold, so you can opt in. It is a feature you can turn off, which is one of the things we have to be careful.
Auto gold.
A handful of other things where we're like,
se recoge eso, hoy que como.
But you can also keep it off. This was actually something that we started looking into when we were adding controller support. There's a lot of paths that we could have taken with controller support, obviously for controllers on console, which we're coming out on, but allowing you to just plug a controller in for accessibility reasons, for that might be the way you want to play. But it's a PC first experience. Like for example, there's still an inventory grid, there's still inventory Tetris. That's core to what Diablo 2 is, right? Taking that away, it starts to become something different.
And I love that. I think that's the perfect way to really introduce it, because you're going to have that split in the community. You're going to have half the people who say, just give me auto gold. It's 2020. I don't want to worry about having to pick up every individual gold stack. But then you're going to have the opposite side of purists who go, don't touch
el autogol va a ser
totalmente optativo. And if I'm speedrunning through the game or playing through whatever, I want to be able to go over and pick up the gold stacks and take that time, and that's more a part of the Diablo 2 experience for me. I want to jump back to features in a second, but before we do, you just brought up console play, and I feel like we have to jump into console, the decision for console, and how you're gonna make that work. You already talked a little bit about like auto gold, having that to be a little more accessible, but when I think of Diablo 2, I think of a mouse going and clicking everywhere and how does this work on a console?
Bueno, ¿cómo se transporta Diablo 2 a una consola?
Would be a bold lie. So there's a couple things. For the most part, the game thinks you're still using a keyboard and mouse with a controller. That was almost a rule we kept, that helped keep us on the rails, because we didn't want to be sacrificing once again that authentic experience. But we did want to make it more accessible, bring it to a modern audience. I mean, there are people who were born after this game came out that we want them to enjoy it and play it. And a lot of those people
Mr.
are
used
to, just more modern titles.
Es un speedrunner famoso.
Also, from an accessibility of just allowing you to plug in a controller, helps for many other people to get to enjoy the game.
De momento las habilidades son las mismas.
Thing I think that
no incorporar lo que incorpora Project Diablo 2.
One is you're changing the way you play the game from being kind of an eye in the sky and telling your hero what to do by clicking on areas to actually being your character and directing them.
So pathfinding
is wrong, right? Because you're doing the pathfinding and things like that, which creates some very interesting things. For example, the sorceress's teleport is meant to teleport to wherever you click. So in that area, when you're playing on the console, we will have a kind of a default distance that you will teleport to. Whereas on the PC,
el teletransporte máximo siempre en consola.
Same with Barbarian's Leap, although that one's interesting because it levels.
Máximo.
But it's become a very, very fun challenge. Like, I'm a necromancer and I need to target an item on the ground that has a certain keyword. It's working so far, but you guys will be the ultimate judge of that.
Qué guapo.
Yeah, we've had a lot of talks back and forth, play testing and things like that. A big challenge we had too was categorizing, all those 300 character skills, to see how each of them really play, to see what challenges there were. And yeah, like Rob mentions, the Necromancer Iron Golem is a favorite of ours to continuously talk about because of the various ways it can target. Also, like a sorcerer's telekinesis is another example.
Watching the trailer, we see the assassin and druid at the campfire. We see a druid casting tornado. I have to ask though, even still, this includes Lord of Destruction, right? This is going to be a full encompassing remaster,
junto con Diablo Remastered,
or just a piece.
That's correct. Yeah, we are going to be including both the base Diablo 2 and the expansion Lord of Destruction.
El remake incluye los dos.
And we're even keeping the mode of playing non-expansion character as well, right? So you could still play a classic barbarian, for example, and things like that.
Okay, awesome. Because that was something I was also going to ask was, will there be classic mode? Because once again, when you go to the purist, you always have the people that go back all the way.
Solo puedes jugarlo en consola y en PC si has comprado dos versiones del juego, lo han dicho antes. Lo puedes jugar en aquellas plataformas en las que hayas pagado el juego. El cross progression no significa que un juego lo puedes jugar donde te dé la gana.
It still leads to interesting ways of playing too, right? A lot of it's even data driven too, so like a lot.
Vas a tener que comprar 3 o 4 copias si lo quieres jugar en diferentes plataformas.
Let's make sure we're not taking something away from this remaster.
I'd love to go ahead and start talking about some of the other features, or continue talking about some of the other features that you had mentioned before, because hearing each of these already has gotten me so excited for this game. And so what are some other little things that you felt could be changed, wouldn't change the whole flow of the game, but just improve it a little bit?
One thing we're looking into is making it easier to interact with your stash. So
¿cuánto tardarán en editar el save de las consolas, hacer ítems rotos y moverlos a PC? Poco.
Other things we're looking at as well are like an item comparison tooltip. So in case you're looking at some other item, you can hold shift or whatever controller button is mapped, and then you can see what equipped items you have just for quick glances, things like that.
The item comparison is a great example of us adding it, but added it with a measured hand. So we don't suggest any gear for anybody. The gear in Diablo
no expanden el inventario, expanden el alijo.
Quirky and different, and every
Te pone un alijo compartido.
Everything that us recommending things like that actually was more confusing to people. So you hold shift and it's like, here's what you got equipped, here's what it is.
I think that's the great way to do it.
Claro, hueso hijo de puta, los hacks en Diablo 2 no son en consola porque no existe Diablo 2 para consola.
So fantastic, so unique in their own design that it would be near impossible to have a tooltip that could actually recommend one or the other, you know, because it's all so unique to every situation and character and skill build and everything.
We added 5 more languages, so that's a feature to a lot of people who speak those other languages. The whole front end is pretty much modernized now, so your character is much bigger, front and center, right in the beginning, and you'll have a backdrop of whatever act you're in. So that's all been streamlined. You can still, play online or offline, but that flow has been improved.
So what are your favorite changes that each of you have within the game so far?
Los cambios favoritos.
Fun. It's fun to see a lot of the art come to life with our new visuals. So for me, one of the things I've been waiting for since first starting on this game was to see that character creation campfire scene come to life in our
el campfire, que bien se ve el nigromante.
I'm really happy to see how far it's progressed.
Le ve algo raro en la cara al pala.
It's just such an iconic moment. It's the first thing you really see in the game before you get started. And it's amazing.
Can I say all the art? No, I'm just kidding. So we added, like Rob mentioned, we added an act-specific screen in the front end, and it's basically this large screen where we have like a diorama of each act, and it's amazing to see because it feels like you're really there. Like you can see the detail, you can see every aspect of the scene, and
para poder ver a la hora de escoger a los personajes que puedas ver dónde se encuentran.
I think mine is a little bit more squishy. I think our game has gotten a little scarier. I think that there are certain areas in the game where just the way that
esto es clarísimamente el cementerio que hay debajo de la condesa del
big screen TV sometimes, and just it
feels
scarier. It feels
del cuervo
creepier,
sangriento.
a little more claustrophobic in certain areas. That's not just one feature. There's a lot of things going on there, but I think it's really, really cool.
Buah, es que la iluminación está súper currada,
Had the original creators had the tools we have today, it's the experience they would have wanted to make.
Yeah, I think the lighting really helps with that too, because we're a 3D game.
Todos no paran de parpadear, les tienen que estar poniendo los focos súper tochos. Sí, ahora PvP, lo han dicho antes.
A true real-time lighting system. So because we're pushing that with a 3D graphics engine running on top of the game,
qué bien se ve ahora,
lighting inside of those kinds of corridors makes for a very interesting experience now because you just
también os digo que veo mucho humillo por ahí.
With having light react around you like that.
Yeah, I would definitely say, I mean, I've only seen the trailer piece you sent me, but even from that, just seeing like down in the tunnels or the sewers or, you know, any of those like
las transparencias y todo eso también hay que verlo.
Zones, the lighting, it was darker and brighter, and then things like the skeletons with the fire, it just had like this different, I agree, creepier feel. So I haven't seen much more than or anything.
Mira cómo se ilumina cuando tira la bola de fuego y todo, es guapísimo.
There was definitely a different feel to the game, and I loved the fire the most. I think just watching like the sorceress meteor was like gorgeous.
Fire and lightning, once we got all the effects up and running, that was definitely a couple of times where we would be just in a review and we're like, oh, like, and 10 minutes would go by and we're like, oh crap, we had a meeting, we were just playing now. Another thing that kind of goes without saying that just because
pues hashtag tienes razón, cuando un usuario de consola muera y pierde el equipo va a decir, pero qué mierda es esta, y va a raguear. Es probable.
So with multiplayer, are there going to be any changes, any differences
que como en las almas
in there from PvP to trading?
No sé cómo las almas en Dark Souls. Ah, las almas, sí.
You know, units
tienes que volver y recuperarlo, pero si te vuelven a matar de camino, se crea un segundo cadáver y ya está.
¿Y se pierde el primero?
No. En el original si desconectabas y ahora si desconectas se te transporta a la ciudad y ya así lo puedes coger luego.
You know, you can go into games, trade items, or talk in chat channels and things like that. Areas of improvement, though, like I said, going back to my mentioning of reimagining a lot of the UI, improvements to the Battlement lobby. So we're trying to look at some things like improving like how you browse server games. Like, so when you're looking at a game to join and typing passwords and things like that, that's the kind of area we're trying to see how we could smooth out in ways like making sure you can browse normal games, nightmare games, and hell games, even though you've graduated to the higher difficulty. I'm sure you've known that.
There's nothing worse than accidentally killing Bale in Nightmare when you're trying to do Nightmare Bale runs and you're like, I can't find any of the games anymore for Nightmare Bale runs.
But you can if you log into a separate character.
Right, you go to a separate character and then look at it.
That was kind of our logic, right? Since there are workarounds there.
Vale, quieren hacer instancias para que te puedas meter a la dificultad que quieras, en el punto que quieras y demás, y que no tengas que hacer chanchullos como crear un segundo personaje para crear instancias para tu personaje main.
Reducing ladder seasons overall. So right now ladder seasons in Diablo 2 are 6 months, and we're looking at reducing that as well to help.
Lleva curro, Lo que ahora está haciendo lleva bastante curro. Esto no lo han hecho en 2 días.
You know, 6 months is a long time, and we're looking into like if we make it shorter, we could probably have greater beats throughout the year, as well as seeing people strive harder for getting like that to that level 99, right?
So, is there going to be any
se puede seguir haciendo partidas privadas locally
reward
y
change on
públicas,
that, or will it just simply be, you know, the same standard? You get to 99, you're 99 on that leaderboard, and I mean that's a giant reward in itself. But I don't know if there's any other piece go up on the.
¿En qué va a consistir el leaderboard? ¿Alcanzar el 99 y ya está? De momento no hemos pensado en añadir nada más.
In some ways there will be some things that kind of come out of because of what we changed. So we have the ladder, the leaderboard, right, where you can see each class going to level 99.
Tenemos el leaderboard para ver quién llega al nivel 99.
And we're also looking into saving that, right? So you can always look back to previous.
Y molaría que el leaderboard se guarde para poder consultar los leaderboards de las anteriores temporadas, como hace Diablo 3.
That's one advantage, is your names could be there in the legacy if you're looking in the past.
I mean, I think that would be cool enough. Just anything to keep it there as like forever, like this was season 1, season 2, you know? Like that's when I got my 89. Because I know a lot of people like to go and reflect kind of on their old characters and pushes and stuff like that.
Character expiration will not be a thing anymore.
Estoy empezando a echar de menos los 3 o 4 minutos hablando de los garlic, de los ajos. Está siendo largo, pero completo, bastante completo la entrevista. El formato no me disgusta.
Anything different with like character names then, if that's the case?
Oh, yeah. So this was one that we talked about for a very, very long time. So because we are moving to global servers and we have cross progression, we will allow duplicate names.
Vamos a permitir doblar nombres.
With everyone being in the same thing across all consoles and all platforms
y servidores globales.
You would very quickly bump into duplicates like day one. And so we are allowing duplicate names. However, they will also be appended with your gamer tag or your Battle.net ID or the things like that, so that you are still unique. But this also allows us to get for people to play.
De momento parece que no va a tener micropagos. Pagas 40 euros y lo tienes para toda la vida.
Other things like that.
Rob touched on it a little bit, but another mention there was going to global servers as well. So this is a new thing we're doing where the concept of US West, US East, Asia regions, and EU are no longer going to be a thing. El
Zelda de Switch va a costar $60 también, es un remaster. ¿De qué Zelda habláis?
Zelda Skyward Sword.
Vale.
Para la Nintendo Switch.
Va a haber buscador de partidas.
That's a fantastic change. That's always been one of the like saddest parts is like they're on EU and I'm on, you know, US East and then my other friend's on US West and it's like, how do we get us all together, you know? Like, okay, somebody has to make a sacrifice there. And so that seems like a really positive change. So far, you guys are killing it. I'm loving all, I mean, absolutely. I just want to say, like, I'm loving all of the changes and all of the decisions that have been made. It feels like you're really respecting the integrity of the game.
Han sido muy respetuosos con el juego.
Really bringing in a lot of that quality of life.
Pero le han metido mucha quality of life.
Diablo 2 just had some of those pain points, like muling and separate servers and all of that.
Sí, pero no. Falta inventario.
So I just want to throw that out there really quick.
There's a lot of love and care going on.
Y movilidad para muchos personajes.
Like, we're very passionate about Diablo 2, you know. I can even give you a little anecdote of when
no han hablado ni de casas de subastas ni el límite de intercambio de ítems. El juego va a ser como era.
I was asking around.
¿Qué sabes de JJ? Que está trabajando fuera de su casa.
In order to make good decisions on a remaster, so I asked around, like, what kind of files and leftover archives do we have from before, from Blizzard North? And I was told, like, I was given some, and like this, I was told that was it, which I quickly disbelieved.
Es que hicieron un cambio y en Project Diablo 2 no necesita llevar enigma a nadie porque hay más puta mierda. Con lo cual todos los personajes tienen una habilidad de nivel 18 de salto y no lleva enigma ni su puta madre. Porque el enigma tiene 8 segundos de CD entre teleport y teleport. Y me pareció muy interesante que los personajes pudieran saltar con su propia habilidad. Mucho mejor.
Old source files from Diablo
Preguntan
2.
por el Diablo 3 Remaster.
Within folders of saying stuff we should archive.
Ya salió.
And there was a lot of stuff to archive indeed, because there were a lot of things, like we're talking like model source files, old tools that Blizzard North used to create like the sprites and things like that. All these things I spent months and months organizing and communicate that out to the team and help getting Blizzard library team and other people to help out too, to help share as much information as possible, which helps a lot with when we're adapting some of these models and whatnot and making new art out of it, because, you know, sometimes those pixels aren't good enough, and if we have some kind of source model to look at, if we have it, now we can make even closer decisions.
On that day when he found that, I think that really helped me greatly. Like, we sent all of that imagery, even the models, I think we sent over to the outsource teams and different art teams, which they used as like a stepping stone. The only piece of art we actually reused one-to-one were Tyrael's wings. So we actually took the Tyrael wings from the old Max file and then just repurposed that for ours. Like, we did very little work, very little modernization of that. We just made it work.
Han reutilizado mucho material.
The rules that the old game actually used for, like, another example is the succubus. The succubus in which I think the old Blizzard North model, they reused the assassin mesh
en Diablo 4 y en Diablo 2
for the body, and we did the same thing. We use our assassin mesh for the succubus.
Yeah, a lot of fun discoveries that
sí, el código de Diablo 2 está perdido, lo han rehecho entero.
Another example too, like, is because we found a lot of stuff. There's a lot of old texture files for some environments on the game. So another example is like the walls you see in the Act 2 tombs with those kinds of like paintings on them are the same textures we're using because we found the source files for those.
Any symbology we have questions on, we always like jump into that archive, try to find some kind of source or reference or something, and
Diablo 4 le faltan
reuse
2
it as
años.
much as possible. We want this to be as true as possible.
That could even carry over to the cinematics too, you know, like a lot of the cinematics cover the same locations. Think of like Tal Rasha's tomb with
Diablo Immortal este fin de semana no,
runes going on behind
pero
him.
en 6 meses sí.
Sources like that to try to match as much as possible was a goal, and I'm glad to say we did find those kinds of things and they're matching it very well. So it's helping our cinematics too.
There was even concepts we repurposed. Like we found a couple concepts that were amazing from 20 years ago, the Bloodhawk and the Bloodhawk nest, and we used that completely to rebuild our new asset.
I mean, that's fascinating. I feel like I could just sit here for hours and hours, days, as you guys talk through every single thing you found in the source files.
I could too. I'm still organizing it to this day. I still could find something that could, as I put it, I'm very meticulous with this stuff because I love it so much. You know, I'm putting like categorizing everything. Like this is everything I found on War Eve. This is everything I found on the Greater Mummy monster.
Puedo va a salir mucho antes que Diablo 4.
If Chris comes to me and needs help with like some kind of way of identifying what parts of the creatures are or something, I even go through lengths of like seeing if I could open up those models. And actually re-rendering them out in a way that we could actually see it in higher detail and like, you know, see like what, like, oh, the Greater Mummy is showing like part of his bone on his knee, so we should try to match that or something like that. And there's a lot of interesting stories and references that we actually used to create the new art by re-rendering models out to see everything.
Yeah, it was literally like video game archaeology, and even learning how parts of D1 were made, parts of the code that were commented out. Totally geek out on just all of the, you know, because it's a game that we all kind of grew up in, and a lot of us got into the games industry because of these types of games, and this game in particular, right? Like, and so it's almost like we're treating it like a classic car, right? Like, okay, it probably shouldn't run on leaded gas anymore, but you really can't change it, right? You just got to make it, you know, good enough, even better, you know, than they remember, and good for another 20 years.
Yeah, and even like, you know,
están hablando de lo respetuosos que han sido el rehacerlo y tiene mucho sentido.
As well, because naturally this being a sequel to Diablo 1.
Diablo 2 en teoría va a estar para diciembre de 2021.
Diablo 1, you know, was 1996 and Diablo 2 2000. A lot of things carried over throughout development. So going back to see Diablo 1 and what it's like also helped us make
rejugaremos Diablo 1, rejugaremos Diablo 2 y rejugaremos Diablo 3. Lo que es la historia. 100%.
In the Chaos Sanctuary, you see a lot of statues with these black knights, and those are actually the same Chaos Knights you see in Diablo 1. So like sometimes some of the things I find even source files from Diablo 1 were useful for us for reference, so we can make the new statues.
Qué bonito.
Like
mira cómo se mueve la lava.
The Sorcerer and the Act 3 Hireling shared very similar models. Like it was just an addition helmet or a little bit of detail on the chest, but that was really the difference.
You guys need to do a just like developer archaeology discussion at some point where you just sit down and talk through all of this, because this is like the most fascinating stuff I've heard. I mean,
Nunca me desenamoré de
Diablo 2,
pero es que Diablo 2 me toca la fibra, no me jodas.
Of the game, but like when there's like more to be discovered, it's like, oh man, I'm like itching to know. So I would love to just listen.
The funny thing is, like, you know, going back to our like core philosophies on the game, like, you know, we wanted to keep discovery and the mystery and stuff. Because you keep discovering things all the time when you play Diablo 2, like all these little hidden rules and informations. It kind of carries that fascination over through development as well. Like we find a lot of things in the code, design documents, models, things like that we're really fascinating.
La próxima alfa que tengamos de Diablo Immortal sea entre poco.
I learn something new every day on the project.
A ver qué nos cuenta mañana.
One thing, shifting back to the online
Imagino que preguntas y respuestas nos dirán
I know
algo.
there's definitely going to be questions around security. How are we handling duping? How are we handling bots?
¿Cómo vamos a evitar todos los temas de trampas?
Just anything around that, realm downs, and all of the disconnects and all of that good stuff that we deal with online. What's being taken, or what actions being taken there?
So moving over to modern BattleNet helps us with a lot of those types of things. To say it's you know, Loctite. I wouldn't dare do that. That's like throwing a gauntlet down to the community to try to break it. But all of that should be far more secure now. Now, we do still allow you to play offline, right? You will need to authenticate that your copy is legit, but after that, you won't be bothered. And so there's a reason why we leave those characters quarantined away from online.
I mean, yeah, we have a server team working on it, and these are some of their efforts, right? We want to stop the bots, stop duping as much as possible. There's a lot of
tenemos un equipo desarrollando cosas para parar las trampas.
I'm excited to play this game, and I'm sure a lot of other people are very excited. How can we sign up for this closed beta, and when will this game be coming out?
Actually, we will be doing a technical alpha, and you can sign up on our webpage today
for
future waves of invites. As for the game itself, it will be releasing 2021.
Well,
el juego se va a lanzar en 2021 y el alfa pronto.
Remastering team right here. I
podéis apuntaros en la web.
Blown away by how much effort and how much passion you guys are putting into this game and just into Diablo 2. I've loved Diablo 2 for 20 years, and I never thought that the game could get better. But I think you guys are respecting the integrity while upgrading and adding and improving, and I think this is going to overall just better the game. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you having me on and for all of the hard work you've done.
Awesome, thank you. I mean, your praise means the world to us. I mean, you and people like you who keep the game going for 20 years. Like, that's, if you guys didn't do that, this might not be happening, right? We see the passion in what you do, in what your colleagues do. Like, so thank you even more, and thanks for coming to do this. This was fun.
Qué buena pinta tiene.
La luz es un espectáculo, tío.
Está muy bien hecho, el sistema de iluminación está muy bien hecho. Por lo menos en los trailers. La iluminación que provocan las habilidades 10 de 10. Ni siquiera la muerte puede librarte de mí. No hemos visto las vacas, es verdad. Bueno, pues por si no os habéis dado cuenta, se acaba de terminar la Blizzcon.
You know, the original Diablo 2 is why I'm here at Blizzard today. One of my greatest gaming memories was when my brother and I played for 3 straight days to finish the entire D2 and expansion campaign when it first came out. Not only was it a special moment with my older brother, but ignited a passion within me for Blizzard games, and is why being head of the Diablo franchise is so special now. Well, that's it for me. Thanks for joining us on the Diablo channel today. Together, the D4 team, the Immortal team, the D2R team, and the Diablo 3 team. Let's not forget about them. I mean, after all, we're getting double treasure goblins right now. We're all 100% committed to bringing you even more adventures in Sanctuary.
Vaya cara que tienes, cabrón.
And in ways you've never expected. I hope you're ready for it. But for now, keep watching.
Ha recordado lo de
Day 1 of BlizzCon Line.
안녕하세요, 마봉입니다. 전 세계에서 시청 중인 블리자드 팬 여러분,
¡Coreanas!
세계적인 블리즈컨의 무대에
¿Pero qué me hacéis?
찾아뵙게 돼서 정말 영광입니다.
네, 저희가 블리즈컨에서 공연한다고 하니까 주변의 친구들이 너무너무 부러워하더라고요. 한국에서 블리자드의 인기는 정말 대단하다고 합니다.
네, 블리자드의 30주년 정말
Bueno. Mañana tenemos el preguntas y respuestas a las 9 de la noche. Yo abriré un ratito antes. Me imagino que jugaré durante el día, pues. Y luego por la noche pues abriremos un ratito y lo veremos la Blizzcon. Luego tenemos la marcha virtual de los Murlocs, el escaparate de la comunidad. Y luego tendremos el trabajo de los artistas con la madre de la colmena, que va a ser 2 raciones de la madre de la colmena. Entonces vamos a tener por una parte el... A ver, ¿dónde lo tengo? Aquí. Vamos a tener por una parte... después de las preguntas y respuestas del evento de la comunidad, la madre de la colmena parte 1 y parte 2, que entiendo va a ser el desarrollo, el cómo el mundo de Diablo ha ido avanzando en Diablo 4. Vale, ¿qué os parece si hacemos una pequeña recopilación y ya pues terminamos el stream?
Un montón de información,
Mucha
un montón de cosas.
Comparado con el Nintendo Direct del otro día, bastante mejor, la verdad.
Ni creo el panel de StarCraft rápido que sale ahí. Pero ¿qué pasa con StarCraft? Ah, las mismas, tías.
Sí.
Estarán en todos, será el cierre. Pero vamos, que no
sí,
puedo...
esa clausura.
No puedo poner esto, gente, que me chapan. Bueno. Mañana tenemos el preguntas y respuestas, así que todo bien. Después de eso tendremos el escaparate de la comunidad y tendremos las dos paneles. ¿Qué hemos tenido hoy? Primero nos han hablado de Diablo 2 Remastered, nos han hablado de los avances de Diablo 4, que básicamente es un nuevo personaje. No hemos sabido nada más que de Diablo 4 que hay un nuevo personaje. No hemos sabido cuánto avanza el mundo, ni... Bueno, sí, nos han dicho que tenemos eventos de PvP. Pero hemos visto muy poquito sobre lo que es el avance de Diablo 4 en este año y medio. Me falta muchísima información. De Diablo 3 solo se ha dicho, ¡ey! Diablo 3, que tenéis 2 goblins en vez de 1, ¿eh? No os olvidéis que tenéis 2 goblins en vez de 1. Y de Diablo Immortal se ha hablado de lo bien que ha ido la alfa. Se ha hecho el preguntas y respuestas y tal, de lo bien que ha ido la alfa. De Diablo Immortal me ha sorprendido el hecho de que hablaran de las zonas de PvP y tal, que a mí personalmente me ha parecido que... Parece que el endgame puede tener más de lo que yo esperaba. Hemos visto un poco de gameplay, gente con 100 y pico de Paragon, haciendo fallas superiores, haciendo... Pues eso, endgame. Y hablando de que va a haber mucho más contenido en endgame. También os digo que no he visto nada que no supiera ya. O sea que... Diablo 4 me ha molado mucho el nuevo personaje, pero entiendo que falta hablar de todo el mundo. Espero que eso sea lo que desarrollen aquí, porque me ha faltado toneladas. Me ha sobrado la conversación sobre el desarrollador de dibujo. Lo encuentro que creo que lo podían haber rellenado con algo mejor. Y bueno, muy contento con el repaso a fondo de Diablo en la parte de Diablo 2, que es lo que hemos tenido. Nos han hablado de cómo de respetuosos han sido, de cuáles han sido los avances, de cómo ha sido el desarrollo de Diablo 2 Remaster, o sea que 10 de 10. En cuanto a Immortal, nos han dicho que esta alfa ha ido bien, pero que vamos a tener más betas antes de que salga, con lo cual el lanzamiento no parece inminente. Una lástima, creo que se merece un lanzamiento inminente. Y Diablo 4 no va a ser lanzado en 2021, así que de momento hasta dentro de 9 meses, hasta dentro de 11 meses no tenemos ningún lanzamiento de Diablo, pero es que por ahora tampoco tenemos betas. Lo que sí que nos da un poco de aire es pensar que la beta de Diablo 2, si el lanzamiento va a ser en diciembre de 2021, el alfa beta tiene que ser como mucho en 4 meses. Así que, bien, supongo que bien. Gente, mañana vamos a seguir con esto. No sé si queréis comentar algo antes de que dé por finalizado el stream. Hemos tenido los anuncios de los dos juegos, que los he ido poniendo durante el stream. Y la verdad que gráficamente a mí Diablos me ha conquistado. Como a todos, han tirado nostalgia, que saben que funciona. También hemos tenido el listado de lo que supone los cambios de Diablo Resurrected. Y hemos tenido también las imágenes del Press Center, donde podemos ver tanto cómo evoluciona Diablo 4 como cómo han hecho Diablo 2, que lo tenemos por aquí. Los diferentes personajes, las interacciones, todo. Mira lo que guapo. Así que no sé si queréis comentar alguna cosilla antes de que demos esto por finalizado. Esto hasta la semana que viene yo no lo resubiré a YouTube, porque todavía tengo mucha cosa que revisar. Mañana abriré un ratito de PoE y después de eso abriré un ratito de lo que nos queda de la Blizzcon, que nos queda bastante material. Así que si queréis decirme alguna cosa, aprovechad, y si no ya pues raideo a alguien y nos vemos mañana por la tarde.